Phoenix Knights. Chapter 291 Charge. Chapter 291 Charge. Zhuo Fan went over to Huangpu Qingtian, his gait casual, his tone calm, just like seeing an old pal. Young Master Huangpu, since this is the second round, you should have told me. Where's the pill then? Ha ha ha, please. It'd be the same as dangling the brimming sacred pill in your face. Now that I've seen what Steward can do, let's see you try getting it now. Huangpu Qingtian raised a taunting eyebrow. Zhuo Fan shook his head. There was no point in doing anything, not when he had no clue of the item's location. Young Master Huangpu, since you won't tell me, take it as my loss this time. Let's meet again in round 3. Zhuo Fan waved and was about to retreat, as if scared. Huangpu Qingtian snickered. Steward Zhuo, I admit that I have no way of stopping you from leaving. Nor do you have a way of stopping me. But I can't say the same for them. Hinting at Luo Yunhai's army, Huangpu Qingtian snickered with a light clap. Furious roars filled the marsh, storming for the group of allies from both sides. Just as Luo Yunhai predicted, the attack was formed of 2 armies led by Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan, respectively. There was no sign of Lin Xianfeng. The guy was double the cripple, true, but a profound heaven expert regardless. He wasn't about to miss out on springing an ambush with such an obvious answer. Luo Yunhai easily predicted the guy was waiting for them to retreat in his direction. Nice, you live up to the name of Tianyu's 5th tiger! Xie Tianshang showed his admiration. His opinion of Luo Yunhai grew a notch. The same went for the others. If not for Luo Yunhai's tactic, the sudden charge of so many enemies would have crushed them where they stood. Some would choose to flee and run into Lin Xuanfeng's team, sealing any means of escape. Luo Yunhai may be weak, but his art of war was leagues above anyone from 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. Luo Yunhai just shook his hand. The praise didn't get to his head as he kept his cool in dealing with the sudden dual charge. Listen up. Only act when I give the signal. They all nodded, fully trusting Luo Yunhai. Huangpu Qingtian watched it all with a smile. Steward Zhuo, your allies look positively rooted in fear. They huddle together like lambs, about to break, flooded by my men. Isn't it what you wanted anyway? Zhuo Fan smiled back, completely confident of Luo Yunhai's abilities. Squinting, Huangpu Qingtian felt something amiss. His side had 10,000 men doing the charge and even laid down an ambush, while the Tri-House Alliance numbered 3,000 at best, outnumbered 5 to 1. With them holding the field and numerical advantage, anyone would think this battle was in the bag. So what did Zhuo Fan base his confidence on? Huangpu Qingtian would find out soon enough. Kill! With an earth-shaking roar, Luo Yunhai pointed behind him and his army followed. Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan's armies were stunned in bafflement. We haven't even made contact, so why are they charging behind? The ambush hadn't sprung yet either. The 2 were oblivious to its meaning and took it as a good thing. Regardless of what trick they pulled, it would only work to show a hole in their formation. This will make things easier, killing them down to the last man. The 2 only grew excited in their charge. How could they have known? Their crass assumption couldn't be farther from the truth. Luo Yunhai's army did charge, but its flanks did their job in keeping the center shielded. Despite the flanks clashing with the enemy, they showed no weakness in their defense, as they also didn't engage in a heated fight, moving with the center's charge as well. Yan Bangyi and Yan Bangyi's armies found themselves in the worst situation. They felt as if each man was facing 5 people. Just as they attacked the front, a sudden retaliation came from the back. The Tri-House Alliance moved like the sea, crushing the enemy armies in waves. Amidst the turbulent waters, Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan found their numbers culled. As for the lucky survivors, they landed far behind the battle, looking on at the endless strings of corpses left by the Alliance's charge. They had the numbers, they had the flanking, but now they had the biggest losses. While Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan looked positively glum, Huangpu Qingtian gnashed his teeth. You've got your ass handed to you even when 5 to 1? Just what do I keep you idiots for anyway? Yu Yushan's back tingled from Huangpu Qingtian's seething bloodthirst, and he gave the signal to Lin Xianfeng. A 3-pronged attack ought to save them from a gruesome and cruel death, no? But as Lin Xianfeng eagerly led his 5,000 men to beat someone when they were down, he heard a loud boom and his army was blown away. Luo Yunhai's vanguard, drifting flowers edifices, was mowing his men like grass. His only reaction slack-jawed. What the hell? Weren't we supposed to catch a fish in a barrel at this point? Why the hell do I still see them holding strong? How the hell does a huge fish like this just slip right past you? Yan Bangdi and Yushan, are you more useless than manure? What are you doing letting a pristine army charge here? How am I supposed to stop them? While he was here cursing his allies, the duo cursed right back. You damn cripple! Is this how you lead an army? Are your men meant as cannon fodder? I don't expect you to stop them, but you could at least curb their charge somewhat. You're 100% garbage is what you are. You got what was coming to you when soaring demonic dragon took an arm and a leg. As the trio cursed each other like no tomorrow, Luo Yunhai had no problem punching his way through the encirclement. Xue Fan laughed from pride when it came to armies. Ambushes were the norm. This couldn't have been a better test for the fledgling marshal. The way Luo Yunhai set his army was the typical echelon formation, excelling in counter-attacking the pincer attack and allowing high mobility. This formation puts a price on speed above all else. Once it was formed and picked enough speed, nothing could stand in its way. Xue Fan flicked a grin to Huangpu Qintian. Young Master Huangpu, my guess is that it wouldn't be so hard for them to get away. Face twitching, Huangpu Qintian looked ahead with a scorching gaze. He wished nothing more than to kill those three wretched allies of his. The reason for one's defeat wasn't an unbeatable enemy, but wretched allies. Those morons have higher numbers yet were still smacked around. All they managed to do is drag my reputation through the mud. They're nothing but utter imbeciles. Taking a deep breath to quell the surging anger, Huangpu Qintian laughed coldly. Ha ha ha, Steward Xue is erudite in pen and sword. You've had this planned all along. No, there was no planning. They did it all by themselves. One must give credit where it's due, and not take it for oneself. Xue Fan cut him off with his snide remark, which only got Huangpu Qintian even more worked up. Xue Fan's deceitful character was common knowledge, so losing to him was hardly shameful. But those three sods of his lost to the likes of some broads from drifting flowers edifices. To make matters worse, it was the tyke from Luo clan leading them. With his allies having lost any semblance of dignity, it was quite sensible for their leader to blow a gasket, grating his teeth and fuming mad. Huangpu Qintian's face took on a vile tone. Steward Xue, I never wished to drag them into this. You leave me no choice but to. What, go and snap their necks yourself? Ha ha ha, you'll have to go through me first. With his trademark evil grin, Xue Fan's urge for battle flared. Huangpu Qintian nodded. Our fight is foreordained. But first, let's see if you can save them. Huangpu Qintian's eyes flashed with cruelty and roared at the sky. Ooh! Shockingly enough, Huangpu Qintian's mere shout sounded closer to a dragon than a human. Xue Fan squinted, but his reply was a calm gathering of eerie power in his eyes. That dragon roar was a special martial art, just like his race style. They both originated from dragons. But no man could ever release a dragon's roar, short of being a dragon himself. Xue Fan shook that thought away, finding it utterly ridiculous. A true dragon had the power of at least Gu Santong. Despite being called a monster, his might had yet to shed the realm of mortals. So why then? Xue Fan's train of thought was cut off when the earth rumbled with a dreadful sound. Chapter 292 Blood Croc Army. Chapter 292 Blood Croc Army. Boom! As the rumbling continued, the sound only grew louder. Not even the chaos of battle could drown it. Luo clan and drifting flowers edifices stopped their charge. So too did Yan Bangdi and Yushan cease attacking. Their flanks. Ally and enemy alike watched dumbstruck at the source of the noise. What dreaded creature could make such a riveting entrance? Roar! They got their answer in the form of an endless stampede of blood-red creatures crawling towards them from behind Huangpu Qintian. Regardless of where one looked, all they saw was a crawling red mass. Now that they got a closer look, the creature was a fanged blood crocodile of 5 meters in length. They were pack animals crawling on the ground, yet that didn't stop them from having incredible speed and tough bodies like peak bone tempering experts. 3rd level spiritual beast, Blood Croc! Everyone cried out in alarm. Who wouldn't, when watching 10,000 blood crocs marching towards them with relentless force, a lucky few profound heaven experts would just fly out, while the rest were doomed to be ripped limb from limb in the jaws of a croc. Luo Yihai turned grave. Godfather told me that Qiao'er are expert beast masters, sweeping the battlefield with their beast army. This army can use formations and could hold its own at a numerical disadvantage, but I never imagined Huangpu Qingtian would resort to the likes of this. This is bad. What? Huangpu Qingtian called them. Long Xingyan snapped his head at the smirking figure, just as the blood crocs simply bypassed him. Now a believer, his face sank. This monster is already strong enough, but now he can call upon a beast army as well? We can't fight them. Our only choice is to run or get trampled. The others took one last fearful look at Huangpu Qingtian and nodded. Huangpu Qingtian's talent had reached a godlike level. But was running that easy? Sure, the few flying ones could take some passengers, but what about the other couple thousand? They were fated to end up as broken corpses under the blood croc stampede. Xu Qingqing frowned and sighed. Yun Bangyi, Yu Yushan and Lin Xianfeng snickered as they flew away with their profound heaven experts, uncaring to the fate of the rest. Xie Tianyang looked at Zhuo Fan's broad and straight back. Our fate now rests solely in his hands. Everyone looked at Zhuo Fan in frustration and helplessness. Zhuo Fan's abilities were eerie, to say the least, of great power, but could one man stop the flood? They held no hope in Zhuo Fan. Even Luo Yihai, always confident of Zhuo Fan's invincibility, faltered. I and Big Brother Zhuo had anticipated the enemy launching a frontal assault. It was our ignorance that led us to assume they'd be men and not thousands of blood crocs. Humans are susceptible to fear. A bit of trick here and there from Big Brother Zhuo would be enough to buy us plenty of time. But when facing a horde of savage spiritual beasts, they won't falter for anything. Damn it! Is there no other way? Xie Tianshang cut him off in anger. His eyes were burning from rage. Huangpu Qingtian is inhuman! The others got what he was saying. Yes, he was inhuman. No man was able to subdue a blood croc horde and use it for himself. No one would be so cruel to his fellow men, to even throw away his own men's lives to be ground beneath the marching horde of his beasts. Then it dawned on them. Isn't that strikingly similar to Zhuo Fan? They turned to him now. The man was taking a deep breath and looked on heavily. Like a cold-blooded monster, he also possessed power no man could. But how much could this monster slow the horde down? We don't ask for much, just enough to let us get out alive. They held little hope for Zhuo Fan pulling through for them, but they still did hope. His talent was unseen in this world as well, but he was a human like the rest. How could he possibly slow the beast flood down? Well, one delusional girl thought this was right up his alley. Xue Ningxiang clenched her fists and said, No worries. Big Brother Zhuo can do it. She had now crossed the point of no return, becoming an eternal Zhuo Fan's fan. She didn't care about hows or whys, just as long as Zhuo Fan did something, everything would be alright. Funnily enough, she was right. Luo Yihai begged to differ, however. Zhuo Fan had no problem dealing with a bunch of men charging over, but as for spiritual beasts. In the face of the ravenous flood, Zhuo Fan looked like a dinghy floating about, ready to tip at any jolt. However, this dinghy was quite calm and smiling. Young Master Huangpu, who knew you can tame beasts? Ha ha ha, you're too kind. It is but a mere parlor trick. Huangpu Qingtian acted casual but couldn't hide the conceit in his eyes from Zhuo Fan as Zhuo Fan took pride in his blinking art. Huangpu Qingtian was confident of his beast-taming skill. It was akin to providence. As if heaven went out of its way to lay everything at this king's feet so that no man, or beast, could defy his righteous conquest. Zhuo Fan could tell what he was thinking and grinned. Young Master Huangpu, you sure are confident in your ability. Not confidence, but a given. Huangpu Qingtian smiled with his head held high. The Emperor declared, In this world, be it armies, the ground beneath their feet, the officials, and even these savage beasts, all are fated to bow before their true king. Show off. Zhuo Fan's inner outcry summed it up nicely, while his reply was a snort and shake of the head. What do you say to a wager then? On what? That got Huangpu Qingtian's attention. The kid has time to bet when his life is at stake? What's he up to? Bang! Zhuofan drew a heavy line with his foot, sneering at Huang Puqingtian. I wager your beast army won't cross it. Even if just one of them does, I lose. Pretentious! Huang Puqingtian only had anger for his haughty boast. He knew what Zhuofan was capable of, but never once believed the punk had the power to quell the beast tide of tens of thousands. Huang Puqingtian only managed to do it with that little secret deep within him. As for power alone? Impossible. Zhuofan's crass words undermined his authority. Was the ability of a regent that easily dispelled? Zhuofan only mocked him. Well then, O young master Huang Pu, do you accept? The stakes are the brimming sacred pills we each hold. The winner gets the other's pill. Huang Puqingtian mulled over the trickery Zhuofan planned to include in this wager, but still held supreme confidence that nothing the punk did could change anything. As such, for honor and hubris, he nodded. Show me then your futile attempts to stop tens of thousands of spiritual beasts. My pleasure! With a crafty grin, Zhuofan turned to the charging blood croc tide filled with barbaric and unrelenting savagery. These blood crocs had only one answer to this suicidal kid, gaping maws filled with teeth and sharp claws. Chu Qingqing, Xuaningxiang and the rest watched on unnerved. Huang Puqingtian had a cold smile, calm and uncaring to the lonely man facing a flood hum. Zhuofan's eyes then flashed in a strange light. The blood crocs were about to tear into him, with one of them even having his head in its maw. It only needed to chomp and that would be the end of Zhuofan, but the blood croc's eyes shrank in fear. Under the astonished looks of the bystanders, the beast army began to shiver-roar. A mewling cry from somewhere among them signaled the rest of the blood crocs to turn tail and scamper from whence they came. The wild eyes and stumbling gait only hinted at the horrors these beasts had seen. They were even faster in retreat. This spectacle left everyone slack-jawed. Chu Qingqing was dumbstruck, Xie Tianyang was shell-shocked, Yu Shan was speechless, Lin Xianfeng jumped out of his skin and, naturally, Huang Puqingtian was floored. He still had a clear picture in mind of Zhuofan being torn apart, only to be replaced with an image of a cowering beast army. What made it worse was the unknown element of how he'd done it. Huang Puqingtian stood there like a statue, his eyes lost, mindless of even the fleeing spiritual beasts zipping by. Chapter 293 First Contact. Chapter 293 First Contact. What just happened? Yu Shan was floating about in the air, looking dazed at the scampering blood tide. When he finally managed to return to his senses, he said to his two allies, Wasn't that eldest young master's trump card? The two were still out of it by the looks of it. Huang Puqingtian had laid it on pretty thick with his boasting. That once blood crocs came into play, the Tri-House Alliance would be left in mangled pieces. They were so excited to see Zhuofan finally falling short in something, getting with the program of suffering like everyone else. The boasting got them hyped as well, eager to see Zhuofan in tears. That wasn't meant to be, however. Not when the sure kill method was running away at top speed. The three sank into depression, followed closely by the sharp decline in Huang Puqingtian's grandeur. Even heaven-shaking Dragon Lord got the same treatment as them. He boasted and flounced, sure, but do that in front of soaring demonic dragon, and you'd get bitch-slapped. He had met his bane. Luo Yunhai's side was on the verge of breaking down at the sight of the savage beast tide. They felt the end coming, their future robbed, but looking at it now, they knew the earlier panic was quite pointless. There was no need to fear, as long as Zhuofan was here. The acting commander of the Tri-House Alliance shook his head at the casual Zhuofan. Sigh, it seems even I don't know big brother well. He shrugged the beast army of tens of thousands like it was nothing. Forgive me, friends. I have made the grievous mistake of doubting big brother's abilities. With how Huang Puqingtian can do it, it's quite obvious big brother's can do it too. It's a fallacy to think otherwise. Luo Yuhai gave a solemn bow to the vexed crowd. It made sense though. Having gone through so many events with Zhuofan, there was one undeniable truth all of them should have figured out by now. Nothing was impossible for him. If even he met with an impossible conundrum, then all hope was lost. Huang Puqingtian could control spiritual beasts. Humph, then so could Zhuofan. The basis? He was Xuefan, of course. In the blink of an eye, Xuefan's fan club found its ranks greatly bolstered. One had to admit that even a fan was right, sometimes. Just look at Xuaningxiang, bouncing around with unbridled joy. See that? What did I tell you? Chu Qingqing shook her head. Although her love rival, she still found her innocence pleasing to the eye. Xiao Dandan's eyes had hearts in them. Watching Xuefan with an intoxicated leer, Xuefan's cold tone gave her quite the scare back then. But with him striking the alpha male pose, she threw that fear out the window. Dying by his hand would be a dream come true at this point. I'd rather be a ghost by a hero's side than the wife of a lousy bum. The lust was strong with this one. Xiao Dandan simply wanted to gobble Xuefan up. Dong Xiaowan saw the others' galls and envy. They all fought over Xuefan's attention, but not her. She was of low status, and being unable to follow her heart left her in misery. These monsters are capable of anything. Xie Tianyang glanced at Xuaningxiang's red face with jealousy. The others paused for a second, then nodded unanimously. One man controlled a beast tide while the other shooted away with a wink. Could a human being ever do that? The two became a beacon of shock and awe to every onlooker. Xuefan reigned totally supreme. He did have the upper hand, and all. Rumble. Amidst the ever-shaking earth from the fleeing blood crocs passing him by, Huangpu Qingtian's face twitched. His fists scrunched up and he spat through gnashed teeth. Stop! I command you all to stop! Not one blood croc minded his rave. They had bigger things to worry about, you moron of elephantine proportions. You're merely a king on earth and can command some of us, but that man is an emperor over everyone. You don't compare. Go home, wash up, and sleep tight. No blood croc who passed him showed any intent of ever stopping, even if he roared himself hoarse roar. Huangpu Qingtian was pissed. He released a dragon roar deep enough to resound even through the deaf blood crocs. Xuefan looked on with a quizzical look. Only now did the blood crocs stop and look at him. Huangpu Qingtian smiled in joy, having regained some semblance of his regality. But then the blood crocs lowered their heads again and scampered off like naughty children. The man's eyes were bloodshot, and his anger exploded. He was a king, and no one defied him. Especially not some mongrels. Thump! An iron fist lashed out and blood blossomed. The punch blew up the head of a blood croc. Stop or die! Huangpu Qingtian wailed with his hand dripping blood. Not that it had any effect. The blood crocs didn't give a rat's ass about his commands. In a fit of anger, he blew up 5 more blood crocs, but the beasts took it in a stride, running as fast as their legs could carry them. As anger gave way to despondency, this king found himself dethroned, standing there in absent shock as the blood crocs streamed by. Why won't they listen? I am their king! Huangpu Qingtian muttered under his breath in bewilderment, all this while the blood crocs ignored him. He didn't strike a kingly figure anymore, but that of a beggar now that he had lost his throne. He was a nobody. The rest of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, foe and ally alike, were watching it all in stunned shock. The day had finally come for the mighty heaven-shaking dragon lord, Huangpu Qingtian, to be lost and despondent. The defiance of his orders thwarted by Xuefan's ability had a far greater impact on this proud and majestic king. It was too much for even him to bear. The watchful shadow from the side sighed. These two are natural enemies. Yet each is a genius seen once every 10,000 years. The death of even one of them would be such a tragedy. Should I take them both? He threw away that thought with a shake of his head and snickered. Nah. The world isn't big enough for both of them. Their fight is preordained. It's only a matter of time. The most sensible choice is to let them go at it and pick the winner. Hi. No one knew such a creepy and uncertain element had snuck its way into the esoteric debate. Xuefan scratched his nose, feeling quite disappointed in himself. Young Master Huangpu, don't be so down. There's no shortage of people who had and will lose to me. By the looks of it, I seem to be the winner in this little wager of ours. Will you honor our deal? With all the blood crocs gone, Huangpu Qingtian raised his head to reveal a crazed pair of eyes as he snapped. Humph, my word is gold. What do you take me for, a Welsher? Huangpu Qingtian took out a vial from his chest. Zhuefan knew it to have the brimming sacred pill. Huang Puqing was afraid Zhuefan would snatch his ring again, so he hid it in his clothes. Any cultivator out there had the means to store their things, be it rings or bags. It was arguably the safest place to keep, unlike on your own body, but Huang Puqingtian's thinking went the other way around. He chose the most important item to hide on himself. The most dangerous place was also the safest. It even caught Zhuefan off guard. Zhuefan would never have found it even if he snatched all the storage rings. Zhuefan laughed. Ha ha ha, young Master Huangpu is so crafty. I never saw it coming. I was still of a mind you gave it to that cripple for safekeeping. Humph, you take me for a fool to leave it on him after the first pill? Huang Puqing flicked and the vial flew at Zhuefan. Humph, take it! Whoosh! The vial shot through the air, leaving eerie sounds as it passed. Even space shimmered. Zhuefan felt a sudden immense pressure slam into his shoulders just as it neared. It even made the likes of him stagger startled. Zhuefan threw his hand forward to block it. Thump! The impact had him slide 5 meters and even found his arm that caught the vial numb. He was shocked to find what a mere flick could do. No wonder Chu Qingqing and the other two lost against Huang Puqing. Even though they joined hands, this guy is a monster body cultivator. Besides Gu Santong, he would definitely be the most outstanding talent of the younger generation. Zhuefan knew that even his diamond body was a far cry from Huang Puqingtian's physique. Elderly was right. This guy is a true monster, stronger than me. After this first true contact with Huang Puqing, Zhuefan now realized the full extent of the power the head of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix wielded. Chapter 294 Release the Beasts. Chapter 294 Release the Beasts. Whoosh! A black figure blocked Zhuefan. He was still staggered from the previous blow when another strike came out of the blue. Squinting, Zhuefan blocked the strike with his hand. Boom! The immense power of the strike cracked earth under him, caving it for 100 meters around. But it hardly mattered compared to the pain coming from his arm. It was on the verge of being broken. Astonished, Zhuefan found himself face to face with a sinister-looking Huang Puqing, his eyes beaming with murderous intent. Zhuefan, I can't let you live! Cackling, Huang Puqing spun a kick into Zhuefan's waist, aiming to split him in two. You're the first to ever rouse my desire to kill! His brow shuddering, Zhuefan faced the sky-splitting leg. Since he couldn't block, he had his right eye flash golden instant movement. Whoosh! Huang Puqing had cut Zhuefan in half, only to find it was his afterimage. While the man himself got some much-needed distance between them, gasping for breath, he didn't anticipate Huang Puqing would ever resort to sucker punching him. What he did just now must have really pushed the guy's buttons and had now driven him mad with the sole purpose of slaughtering him. The onlookers from farther away were astonished. This was the 3rd time Zhuefan and Huang Puqing were at each other's throats. First in Dragon Cloud City, cut short by Duge Zhantian's meddling. Second was pill stealing, though no one was there to witness exactly how it went down. And as the saying went, 3rd time's the charm. They truly let loose in this round. No holds barred. The result? Zhuefan's prospects at winning just hit rock bottom. He was on a total defensive. And if not for that mystical ability of his, he'd be a goner. Huang Puqing's overwhelming dominance crushed Zhuefan. Not even Zhuefan could face this monster gnashing his teeth. Xie Tianshang was tense. Yu Yushan, however, was cackling mad. Both sides' leaders had monstrous talent, but when it came to measuring fists, Huang Puqing won by a landslide. Zhuefan had no way to fight back. The uninvited guest in the shadows nodded. Huang Puqing has the advantage in body, but Zhuefan is far more flexible and crafty. He is better by far. And this is when he isn't even in the profound heaven stage. If the two were of equal cultivation, this fight would have ended a long time ago. Huang Puqing drew the same conclusion, which only fueled his desire to kill to new heights. Zhuefan presented himself as a real and tangible threat to him. He never got the same feeling from the other 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, and only looked at them with disdain even when forced to deal with their cooperation. On the other hand, Zhuefan was a great threat to him. Even more so now that he saw Xuefan cower the blood Croc horde and trampled all over his royal face. It was a wake-up call. That Xuefan was the same as him, qualified to be king. With a cold glint in his eye, Huang Puqingtian barked. Xuefan, is your art only good at running away? Yep. Xuefan was blunt as a birch stump, not forgetting his evil grin as he counted on his fingers. Running, assassination, scouting, spying, and let's not forget my favorite, ring stealing. It has quite wonderful applications, don't you think? That only pissed Huang Puqingtian off. He was looking to mock the man into attacking, but Xuefan was way too calm, ignoring the cheap taunt and making a kingly comeback. His desire to murder Xuefan on the spot spiked again. The shadow nodded. He knew how to appreciate talents detached from everything and looking at things with cool and critical eyes were the makings of a great Aravista. At the same time, Huang Puqingtian's image fell a notch in his eyes. The shadow slowly began to be partial towards Xuefan, finding him to be the better seed. Taking a deep breath, Huang Puqingtian found himself in distress. Xuefan was unlike Chu Qingqing and the like. He could come and go as he pleased, with no one to stop him. He was the biggest headache there ever was when made an enemy. That magical art gave him an insurmountable advantage, so Huang Puqingtian pointed at his allies and barked. What are you gawking at? Kill them already! The trio woke up with a start. Why had they stopped? We gotta box them in. Thus they gave the signal. Luo Yunhai's echelon formation was still shaken from the blood Croc horde and their momentum slacked. They were losing with the enemy surrounding them. The couple thousand army had sunk into despair against the 10,000 enemies. Few were of Chu Qingqing's level to escape, while the rest would find their lives driven into the mud. Panicking, Luo Yunhai commanded, 3-round formation! In an instant the 3 divisions became rotating barrels, blocking the enemy's onslaught. Yu Yushan wasn't worried though. This formation was a defensive one. They would just have to whittle them down with numbers. Grinning, the 3 looked on coldly. Xuefan frowned a bit. As long as his friends were stuck here, he was going nowhere and would sooner or later end up just as dead. Yu Yushan leading the 10,000 army not only entrapped Chu Qingqing's group but also bogged down Xuefan. 2 birds with 1 stone. Ha ha ha, Xuefan, see how I trample them! Huang Puqingtian snickered. He was forcing Xuefan to face him. Squinting, Xuefan sported a cold smile. You'd lower yourself to such an extent? Moreover, you'd have done it already if you wanted to. Ha ha ha, indeed. I despise them, but now that you're here, things have changed. I'll take great delight in tearing them apart before your very eyes. Xuefan tensed and secretly sighed. Just like he thought. Huang Puqingtian left them alive, just so he could restrain him, but the cold smile never changed. Young Master Huangpu, do you really think I'd let them drag me down? Oh? But isn't your young master with them as well? Huang Puqingtian's eyes glinted, having seen through him. He charged for the armies. It was also then when a wind whistled straight for him. This was what he was waiting for. He blocked the kick with his hand, releasing a metallic sound. Looking closer, he found Xuefan eyeing him coldly. He finally decided to attack. Huang Puqingtian gave a crafty smile from having found Xuefan's Achilles heel. He threw a devastating punch. The blow had the power of a mountain behind it. Xuefan vanished, letting the punch pass him. The earth caved in tens of meters, over a kilometer. As a result of the massive impact, it kicked up a cloud of dust and shocked even the clashing armies from the immense power display. What power could do this? Xuefan was sweating now. Blocking that would have earned him a quick trip down under. He looked at his friends helplessly, forced to clash this monster head on. Huang Puqingtian cackled at the floating Xuefan, filled with scorn. I wonder for how long can you stop my advance? Xuefan gnashed his teeth and charged. The effect each time was minimal, barely stalling Huang Puqingtian's progress. His teleports saved him from the worst, but there was no way to escape. Unscathed, Huang Puqingtian was inevitable. He royally took one step at a time towards his target. As he unleashed his power, the sight of Xuefan being played around like a mouse left the others in despair. Not even their last hope could stop the mighty heaven-shaking Dragon Lord, but only Chu Qingqing saw through it and said nervously, It's for us. Huang Puqingtian is forcing Xuefan's hand. We have to get out of here. It dawned on them what a disgrace they were. They became Xuefan's shackles. But how are we supposed to break out when we're outnumbered? What do we do? Luo Yuhai sighed, for even Luo Yuhai to come out empty. It showed how truly desperate a situation they were all, and Chu Qingqing turned to her two allies. Have you brought your spiritual beasts? Their eyes lit up, reminded how their houses provided them with some high-level spiritual beasts. They were pressed at every turn all this time that they'd completely forgotten. The two nodded. Chu Qingqing smiled and spoke heavily. Use our trump cards. Release the beasts and clear a path. Chapter 295 Qiao'er's Appearance. Chapter 295 Qiao'er's Appearance. Shriek. A bird cry pierced the sky, heralding the appearance of a snow-white beast and plunging the area into a freezer. To the shock of everyone, they found a 5-meter large white eagle looming overhead. It kicked up a snowstorm with each flap of its wings. Biting cold winds pierced the enemies in their charge, slowing them and freezing the hapless. 5th-level spiritual beast, Netherwind Falcon! Chu Qingqing shouted. Xie Tianshang and Long Xingyun weren't slow either. Roar. The reverberating roar drew one's attention to a 10-meter golden leopard. Its piercing eyes unnerved the staunchest of hearts, ready to pounce on them and maul their flesh. 5th-level spiritual beast, Golden Cloud Leopard! Xie Tianshang shouted. And mine, 5th-level spiritual beast, Heaven-Seething Lava Serpent! Long Xingyun pointed at a 50-meter-long python covered in rocks. Its eyes shooting flames. The descent of 3 5th-level mighty beasts struck fear in the hearts of the enemy. Each one was equal to a Radiant stage expert. With 3 of them unleashed, the Tri-House Alliance's power was greatly boosted. Roar. Shriek. SSS. The only sensible reaction in the face of such a display was to shirk back. The 3 spiritual beasts started raining havoc within the enemy lines, darting to and fro unhinged. Not even profound heaven experts faced them as the cries of agony reached the sky. Chu Qingqing's team made a breach, even if that gap was now littered with corpses. Yuhai, use the path to get us out! Chu Qingqing pointed at the clearing. Luo Yuhai was about to do just that, but 3 cold laughs revealed Yuyushan and his 2 allies looking down on them. Still, Yuyushan only mocked them. Chu Qingqing, aren't we all from the 7 houses? You think you're the only ones with pets? Don't take us lightly. Our reserves aren't the least bit weaker than yours. Yuyushan snapped his fingers and revealed a blazing falcon 30 meters long. 5th-level spiritual beast, Scorching Eagle. Mine as well, 5th-level spiritual beast, 100 Eyes Pestilence Spider. Yan Bangyi revealed a 50-meter-long, black as night tarantula. It spewed a thick miasma that cut off the path ahead. Chu Qingqing's group found themselves back at a standstill. Lin Xianfeng snickered at their grave faces. It's time for you to feast your eyes on my 5th-level spiritual beast, 9-clawed wind stoat. A sharp wind brushed by and revealed a short 1-meter-long skunk bearing its claws at them. The 6 spiritual beasts started fighting, with no clear winner in sight. The shockwaves blew away any poor soul too slow to react. These were the ripples from 6 Radiant stage experts' attacks. Even a profound heaven expert would be sent to his death. The morale began to sink as fear set in. But the most feared were still the 7 houses. Only the likes of them could dish out 5th-level spiritual beasts that could fight a Radiant stage expert to a standstill. The reveal of the 6 spiritual beasts only furthered the tug of war. Yuyushan's side stayed back in fear of not being dragged into their battle, but Chu Qingqing's group now had no way of breaking out either. It now became clear that they were doomed to wait for Huangpu Qingtian to come reap their lives. Chu Qingqing turned to the others. This stalemate is the worst outcome for us. Does anyone have a 5th-level spiritual beast that can help? All she got was eye rolls. What do you take us for? You think we're that well off to raise a 5th-level spiritual beast? Chu Qingqing sighed in sorrow while Yuyushan's side was having a field day at their expense. The longer this dragged on, the greater the danger. Huangpu Qingtian glanced over satisfied, before turning to Xuefan. I didn't think they would use their trump cards so soon. A shame it changed nothing. Xuefan frowned and his hand trembled. None saw it coming, that Huangpu Qingtian's spirit animal would be a 6th-level spiritual beast that was going to throw the stalemate in the enemy's favor. The Tri-House Alliance's spiritual beast shuddered from the lion's roar. Their power cut down, they were pushed back by the other three spiritual beasts. "We're finished!" Chu Qingqing's army was filled with despair and frustration as the savage lion unleashed waves of flame in its path, even though they'd die either way. Up till now they at least had the chance to take as many as they could down with them, with even some profound heaven experts cherishing the faint hope of survival. But now that the Lion King was here, all hope was lost. Their lives were now waiting for the flames of war to burn them to cinders. Yushan's side laughed. Zhuo Fan kept on shuddering. He didn't get to act as a twisted and maniacally voice grated his ears. "If you leave, who's to hold me back?" Huangpu Qingtian cackled. He was having a blast seeing Zhuo Fan so conflicted. After suffering at his hand for so many times, he finally had vindication. It felt good taking a deep breath. Zhuo Fan found himself in a bind with two threats on a collision course with Chu Qingqing's group. He could only pick one. It was such a nerve-wracking decision that he felt lost regardless of what he picked, but then, his thunder ring flickered. Zhuo Fan felt the impatience and hatred within Qiao'er. He was startled and perplexed at its impatience. But he soon knew why. Flaming Lion King was the same beast who had killed his mother. Although a different one, the thirst for revenge remained. Its hatred ran bone deep for what it had done to its mother, but how was the young Qiao'er going to fight against the Flaming Lion King? It was only a 4th-level spiritual beast. The answer was picked for him as Qiao'er had reached its limit, and the thunder ring flickered stronger. Sigh, it's not like it will change anything. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, having made a decision. "Young Master Huangpu, I may not be able to split myself, but what you have, well, so do I." With a snicker, Zhuo Fan flourished. "Come, Qiao'er!" In a flash of purple, a purple lightning shot for Flaming Lion King. Qiao'er only had one thing on its mind: revenge. "What is that?" Yushan peered at the lightning glow. Yanbangyi said, "It appears to be a thunder skylark, a 6th-level spiritual beast." "But why is it purple?" "What, 6th-level spiritual beast? He has one too." Lin Xianfeng panicked. "Won't this end up in a standstill again?" Yanbangyi took a closer look, before giving a deprecating shake of his head. "Relax, that won't happen. This thunder skylark is only a chick, at the 4th level. It's no match for an adult Flaming Lion King. Besides, an adult thunder skylark would fare no better." Lin Xianfeng laughed. "Ha ha ha, what's up with Zhuo Fan then? Is he so fed up with his useless spiritual beast that he wants to give it to the Lion King as a snack?" That set the other two laughing, while on Chu Qingqing's side, they were hopeful. A treacherous man like Zhuo Fan had to have an amazing spirit animal only to feel their hopes crumble at the sight of a young thunder skylark, a mere 4th-level spiritual beast, and they resumed despairing. Even Zhuo Fan felt how hopeless it was to even let such a meager support out. With great hope came an equally great disappointment as they all sighed, resigned to their fates. Huangpu Qingtian wasn't about to let this golden chance go and mock the chick as well. "Zhuo Fan, are you that desperate to even send your useless spiritual beast to its death?" "What can I say? If it wants to die, I can't stop it." Shrugging, Zhuo Fan didn't seem to care, but the worry in his eyes was unmistakable. Even he didn't know of Qiao'er's power. Common sense dictated that a 4th-level spiritual beast wouldn't be considered even a side dish to a 6th-level spiritual beast. Qiao'er's chances were between nil and infinitesimal. Catching on to Zhuo Fan's worry, Huangpu Qingtian capitalized on it to put his own worries to rest. The punk has no overt scheme in play at all. He is on the ropes. That last one made his day, and he smiled from ear to ear. In the meantime, Qiao'er was already behind the Flaming Lion King. It had everyone's full attention. Even their breath was caught in their throat at the imminent clash. Chapter 296 Purple Lightning's Superiority. Chapter 296 Purple Lightning's Superiority. Roar! Flaming Lion King's roar grated ears as it showed its dominance. The 6th 5th-level spiritual beast had long stopped to watch Yushan's group's spiritual beasts bent a knee and bowed their heads before the mighty Lion King. While on Chu Qingqing's side, their spiritual beasts knew when they were overpowered and shuddered as they inched backward again, and again. It only worked to further let arrogance get to Flaming Lion King's head, showing a scornful smile. It escaped his notice, or, better yet, it brushed off Qiao'er's existence entirely, and it went the same for the other 6 spiritual beasts. What could a 4th-level spiritual beast possibly do in this hopeless situation? Chu Qingqing's side spiritual beasts were vexed. It makes no difference even if you come, foul. You're dead anyway. While the enemy's beasts looked on with mockery, Chu Qingqing's faction was plunged deeper in despair. If the purple thunder skylark instilled a trickle of hope earlier, it was now thoroughly squashed. A spiritual beast's senses were accurate. If they looked down on the chick, then it was clearly worthless. Shriek. Not that Qiao'er cared what any of them thought of it. It only had eyes for Flaming Lion King. It cried from behind to call out the Lion King with a gaze burning with hatred and thirst for battle. Flaming Lion King swished his head back, glaring at Qiao'er, itching to eat it and quench its anger. You dare challenge me? Qiao'er's plumes flickered and purple sparks traveled all over it. If that wasn't clear enough, then the thick bloodthirst made it abundantly obvious. It wanted the Lion King's head on a platter. The Lion King was royally pissed when Qiao'er didn't stop its cries. You wretched and filthy whelp. No thunder skylark can match me. But you, a chick, thinks it can? For you to challenge my authority, the punishment is death. Roar! With another angry roar, Flaming Lion King started showing its violent side. The frightened 6 spiritual beasts were already meek, not even squawking. Qiao'er was the only exception. Its eyes were fixed on the bronze lion, and its screeches never stopped taunting it. The fully incensed Flaming Lion King opened its maw and spewed a 3-meter-big fireball. Not even a profound heaven expert could block such a blow. He'd be turned to ashes. Everyone watched on edge, worried for the Thunder Skylark's fate. Xuanningshan was panicking, turning to Xia Tianyang. Brother Tianyang, big brother Shua's bird looks so pitiful. Please save it. Ugh. Cold sweat filled the silent Xia Tianyang. He turned to the unbearably naive Xuanningshan with an aggrieved look. Ninger, if the bird is pitiful, I am even more so. Have you forgotten our time in Allbeast Mountain Range, of the fight between Flaming Lion King and Thunder Skylark? Now you are asking me to save a 4th-level spiritual beast when I am nowhere near as strong as a 6th-level spiritual beast? But it's just so pitiful. Xuanningshan was saddened. Xia Tianyang shook his head. Blame Shuafan. He knows it too, yet insists on sending it to its death. His words got nods from all around him. Puzzled as to why Shuafan took this reckless course of action, Shuafan himself tightened his fists from worry. Qiao'er, you are the embodiment of lightning and faster than Flaming Lion King. You must dodge. Huang Puqintian snickered. You must be thinking Flaming Lion King can't catch up to Thunder Skylark's speed, right? Ha ha ha, have you forgotten whose spirit animal the Lion King is? Huang Puqintian gave Flaming Lion King a look. Flaming Lion King nodded and flapped its wings. A blazing tornado engulfed tiny Qiao'er, sealing all means of escape. Just as the fireball approached with its biggest advantage sealed, its fate was without a doubt certain death. Shuafan panicked inside. How is the brash and overbearing Flaming Lion King capable of such refined skill? Ha ha ha, you have a spirit animal and you don't know? Unlike spiritual beasts, a master can teach and train its pet martial arts according to their attributes. As I and Flaming Lion King are weak in speed, I devised this move to deal with quick enemies. Huang Puqintian snickered. Shuafan's anger swelled. He had always been a lone wolf. And since he never raised spirit animals before, he was oblivious to its implications. Now he didn't even have the time to regret. This was Qiao'er's decision, and all he could do was support it. All consequences were for it to bear. This was the demonic path he treaded. He hatched Qiao'er from a mere egg and was practically kin. Of course it would walk the same path as him. Boom! The fireball exploded on Qiao'er. It combined with the fire tornado in a tremendous bang, releasing a torrent of flames. Xuanningshan clutched her ears, ducking behind Xia Tianyang in fear as she observed the flaming explosion in dismay. The other side, here lie the bones of an overconfident creature. Shuafan gnashed his teeth, refraining from looking, and clenched his fists further. Huang Puqintian beamed. He wasn't in the habit of letting an opponent's weakness pass by, making sure to drive home as much hurt as he could muster through his condescending. Shuafan, you truly are empty inside. To even send that young spirit animal to its death! Boom! A thunder cut his mockery short. It came from within the fiery blaze. Purple lightning streaked the skies and pulverized the flames into nothing. Qiao'er was revealed at the center of the purple lightning. Its eyes were raging as before, bent on killing the Lion King where it stood. How in God's name is that possible? Shock and awe was prevalent down below. The worst off were the 6th, 5th level spiritual beasts. Not in a million years had they considered it possible for a 4th level spiritual beast to survive the Lion King's head-on assault. What skill is that? Huang Puqingdian was no different. Since when did Thunder Skylark have such a skill? Xuefan looked at the sky and frowned, only to see Qiao'er wrapped in a purple cocoon of lightning. The errant purple lightning hammered the flames and evaporated at mere touch. Xuefan was speechless. He found the purple shield familiar, and realized where it came from. It was the same as Lightning Canyon's protective barrier. Is it? He didn't complete his thought as Qiao'er was on the move again. Shriek. Qiao'er called out Flaming Lion King once again. But it wasn't all talk now. Releasing its all in the upcoming clash, purple lightning snaked from its body, twisting space itself. The pressure grew from such a mighty display, to the point it felt as if the end of days was upon them. The 5th level spiritual beasts weren't the only ones terrified of the imminent danger. Even humans found Qiao'er dreadful. Why is a 4th level spiritual beast far more dangerous than a 6th level one? Even Flaming Lion King squinted, moving backward with a grave face. Who'd have thought the same Thunder Skylark he slighted would unleash such power? Long Xingyan's side was dumbfounded. They were more than a little familiar with Qiao'er's power. Little Kuei, little Jie, don't you find that lightning? Long Xingyan stared wide-eyed. Long Kuei nodded. Yes, it's Uncle Jio's purple lightning. But far stronger. Long Xingyan gasped, shocked to the extreme. He had never dreamed he'd ever see the might of God Ai Long Jio, the power he was famed for, purple lightning God Ai, being displayed here, and on a far greater scale and power. On a spiritual beast no less. Huang Puqingdian was completely floored. Xuefan, that's a Thunder Skylark? In the flesh. The one I reared myself. Xuefan grinned, sponging off another's achievements without even a twitch. He pointed at the lion and barked. Qiao'er, put an end to that eyesore. Ding! Its pair of eyes shone with bloodthirst as Qiao'er's sharp claws glinted. With a flap of its lightning wings, it zoomed for Flaming Lion King like a thunder god. All eyes were on Qiao'er the next moment. The entire sky flashed purple and people's hearts seized. Chapter 297 Turning the Tide. Chapter 297 Turning the Tide. Elite Coder. Roar! This time people found the shout a bit off. One could feel the haughtiness subside and even detect a hint of fear. Flaming Lion King's shaking body kept moving backwards as it stared at incoming purple lightning. Franticness touched its eyes and it started spitting fireballs and flapped its wings to keep the dreaded purple lightning at bay. Fireballs dozens of meters big flew out, accompanied by blazing tornadoes. Anything to stop Qiao'er. This power was enough to sunder earth and burn the sky. The 6th, 5th level spiritual beasts had long since cowered away in fear the power of a 6th level spiritual beast. However, Qiao'er was relentless. Lightning streaked its body as it slipped through the cracks in the flames, arriving 5 meters from the Flaming Lion King and coming face to face with the firestorm. Its eyes squinted and whirled. It charged through, with the purple lightning wrapped around it acting as a drill, piercing the flames and rendering them void. Boom! The struck fireballs exploded in a spectacular fashion. Flaming Lion King was beside itself in fear, and the next thing it knew was its reflection in Qiao'er's cold eyes. Qiao'er ran through Flaming Lion King's chest before he could even think about dodging. Scarlet blood gushed from the hole like a flood. Flaming Lion King was watching its wound paralyze it. A great 6th level spiritual beast had actually found its end at the claws of a young Thunder Skylark, a 4th level spiritual beast, in one move. Its eyes grew heavy, its body colder, evident from the flickering flames over its body. Flaming Lion King felt itself slipping into the dark abyss. Yet it still wanted to go on. However, the hole in his chest was too great, and he soon found his sight go black before collapsing. SSS. Gasping, the crowd never saw it coming. A 4th-level spiritual beast killing a 6th-level spiritual beast. Ridiculous. Xuefan was just as shocked. Qiao'er had exceeded his expectations. Especially that killing blow. The average Thunder Skylark didn't have such skills. Thunder Skylark was a mild 6th-level spiritual beast. It only knew to use its lightning to cover its body in defense, but never to focus it into an attacking skill. This was where Qiao'er differed from the norm. It used the 4th heaven purple lightning and even comprehended 2 skills, one for defense and another for attack. It was uncontested proof of its sentience. Other spirit animals, like Flaming Lion King, were trained in skills by humans, while Qiao'er picked them up by itself. The difference was obvious, like comparing heaven and earth. And what did it mean if a spiritual beast gained sentience? The chance to evolve into a sacred beast. This had never happened among spiritual beasts, nor the appearance of someone like Qiao'er either. A never-before-seen spiritual beast born from purple lightning. Xuefan did not yet know where the purple lightning came from. He was still debating if the Heavenly Emperor created it or obtained it somehow, but one thing he did know was, purple lightning wasn't just sparkles to instill such fear into even the likes of sacred beasts. Qiao'er had bathed in this almighty power and had a high chance of evolving. The last thought really got his blood flowing. Am I going to have a sacred beast spirit animal? While he was in his own little world, the others were dazed, the 6th, 5th level spiritual beasts included. They all looked wide-eyed at the purple figure. Who knew a 4th level spiritual beast ever had it in him to kill a 6th level spiritual beast? Surely not them. Not to mention it was overkill. How it happened. This is insane. Illogical, absurd. It went beyond human and beast comprehension alike. Either side was capable of staring truth in the face. Huang Puqin was the prime example. Seeing his strongest spirit animal killed like nothing, it had messed up the mind of this poor king. What the hell is that thing? Everyone was so out of it, and looking at the slight figure in the air until shriek. Qiao'er flapped its wings, celebrating its conquest. The cry pierced through the people's haze, but the fear still lingered. The little guy is Xuefan's equivalent in the spiritual beast world. A monster! Sigh, like master, like pet. The people lamented, watching the purple figure in envy. Xuefan's eyes shined. Qiao'er, clear a path for them to break free! The crowd was in complete shock while only Yushan's side was panicking. That thing is stronger than a 6th level spiritual beast. Clearing a path meant going through them. Chu Qingqing's side was jubilant, and Xuefan's image grew in their hearts. That's our Xuefan. He always pulls through for us. Shriek. Qiao'er complied with his order and dived. He began by peppering the 3 5th-level spiritual beasts with purple lightning boom. The lightning smashed down like hail, forcing the spiritual beasts to scatter to and fro in fear. Where did this freak come from? And why is this abnormality set on us? Yushan's side was nervous. It wouldn't be long before their beasts would be bombarded to pieces. All the crying in the world wouldn't bring them back then. Robbed of any choice, in fear and anxiety, Yushan's side recalled their spiritual beasts. As long as Qiao'er was looming overhead, no one dared take their spirit animal out ever again. Having lost its targets, Qiao'er flew around unhinged, releasing purple lighting like a veritable thunderstorm and killing all in its path. Cries of horror pierced the sky and the ears of Yushan and his 2 allies as they scattered for cover and their lives. Who the hell had the time to keep Chu Qingqing in a deadlock? Luo Yuhai soon found their path cleared and just strutted out like the enemy wasn't even there. Quite understandable when the same enemy was now screaming and running for their lives. The eyes on Qiao'er were that of awe, shock, and fear. Looking at it dominating the battlefield with its power and valor left them sighing. If Xuefan's spirit animal could turn the tides so easily, why didn't he take it out from the start? How were they supposed to know? Xuefan had no clue of Qiao'er's true might. You'd think he'd keep it stashed away instead of showing off otherwise? Xie Tianyan looked lost, his face stiff. Ninger, do you still find the bird pitiful? With a veritable symphony of screams and wails gracing her ears, Xue Ningxiang went beet red as she said, No, but the men facing it sure are. Everything that Xuefan throws out is insane. Not even his pet is normal. Xie Tianyang sighed. Just how did he do it? How the hell did he raise such a monstrous spiritual beast? Enough chatter! We need to get out of here first. Chu Qingqing snapped, then gave a nod to Luo Yihai, who signaled, "Charge!" With Qiao'er providing cover fire, they breezed through the enemy lines. No one wanted to stop them either, not unless they wanted to be left smoking and sizzling after a bath of purple lightning. Huang Puqin Tian stared wide-eyed at the escaping prey and raved, "A bunch of useless mongrels dare foil my plans? You have another thing coming! Ha ha ha, what if you include me?" Whoosh! Shuafan popped up before him and kicked his face. Huang Puqin Tian mocked, "Humph, you think you can stop me? The only reason you've lived so far is because I was toying with you. You truly believe me to be this weak?" Huang Puqingtian's punch this time left the impression of a rock 50 meters tall crashing down on Zhou Fan Bam. Yet when the two attacks clashed, Zhou Fan's leg flickered purple. A boom resounded as Huang Puqingtian felt an incredible force stagger him, followed closely by Zhou Fan's evil grin. "Ha ha ha, who wasn't?" Boom! Huang Puqingtian was forced back 5 steps. Shuafan didn't let him recover and punched this time, his hand wrapped in purple lightning. "Young Master Huangpu, we're the same, you and I. None of us will use our aces until the last moment." Squinting, Shuafan's smirk widened and he hammered Huang Puqingtian's chest. Huang Puqingtian rushed his hand to defend. Boom! Another powerful blast revealed purple lightning streaking across the ground, now disintegrated in 1,000 meters range. His punch was not one bit less than Huang Puqingtian's earlier strike. Chapter 298 All's Within My Grasp. Chapter 298 All's Within My Grasp. As dust billowed, the boom traveled 1,000 miles. Yushan's side couldn't pierce the veil of dust and were beside themselves with shock. Who knew Shuafan was capable of such power? So much so that it almost overwhelmed Huang Puqingtian. The worry was prevalent in all, but none ventured forth to clarify it. They were too afraid to interfere between soaring demonic dragon and heaven-shaking dragon lord's death match. When the dust settled, all they saw was a mess. When they double-checked, the two were nowhere in sight. They scrunched up the little courage they had and investigated the disaster, but the sudden explosion scared them back. Looking at the source, they found Huang Puqingtian shooting from the ground. Wretched and dirty he may look unseemingly, but there was no apparent wound on him. The shock was palpable at Huang Puqingtian's state. Taking into account the force behind that fist, yet him coming out unharmed in the least, surged them with joy and admiration. "Eldest young master, you're okay." Yushan's gang dashed over, taking a deep breath. Huang Puqingtian's eyes glinted coldly, but he wasn't looking at them. "Where's Shuafan?" The three were confused, until Yushan came forth with a bow. "Eldest young master," Shuafan's punch unleashed a cloud of smoke. "Once the dust finally settled, we only saw the eldest young master appear. We saw no trace of him. I suspect he has already fled." Brows shuddering, Huang Puqingtian spread his discerning field for a more precise investigation. Certain that Shuafan was gone, he said. "And Chu Qingqing's group?" Blushing, the three hanged their heads. "Forgive us, eldest young master. We let them escape." Huang Puqingtian's eyes flashed icily. Reeling, the three broke out in sweat. They wished for Huang Puqingtian's cursing so badly right now. At least it would vent some of his anger. Anything was better than this eerie silence. The fear of not knowing his thinking was only mounting. One day Huang Puqingtian may very well be so angry as to strike them down. The three shuddered in horror, trying to scour for a gesture, anything that betrayed his state of mind. Huang Puqingtian kept silent for a long time before finally smiling. "Let them run. It won't change anything." The three were stunned, having never seen Huang Puqingtian like this, and didn't know how to react. Wait, is this the same cold-blooded eldest young master? Not only did his scheme come apart at the seams, but he also lost a brimming sacred pill and a 6th-level spirit animal. No to mention he invested so much effort in this plan too, but even after gaining nothing from it, he isn't flying into a rage? Am I dreaming? Did he flip? Baffled by the sudden turn of events, they looked on at him in bewilderment. Like he was a different man easily picking up on their thoughts, Huang Puqingtian showed a vague smile. Don't forget our mission in this battle. How can we? It's the position as head of the 7 houses. Lin Xianfeng let it slip, having nothing but scorn for the man. Huang Puqingtian shook his head. Regent Estate has been the head for 1,000 years, and not because of this child's play, but by raw power. We don't need this insipid game to prove anything. Not now, not ever. Huang Puqingtian instilled fear in each one of them with his declaration. That's the Regent Estate we know, unchanged for 1,000 years. Is it for brimming sacred pills then? Yu Yushan ventured, grinning. Huang Puqingtian shook his head again. Brimming sacred pill is a rare 8th grade pill that even the Regent Estate covets. However, that is hardly our goal. Then please enlighten us, eldest young master. Yan Bangyi bowed. Huang Puqingtian's eyes burst with coldness as he clenched his crackling fist. Zhuofan! What? The crowd was in complete shock. Sure, Zhuofan was like a disease, but the esoteric debate was held once a century to settle the power struggle between the clans. Yet he was saying that Regent Estate only joined because of one man? Aren't you overthinking things? His cold eyes swept the crowd, lingering longer on his 3 allies. Then Huang Puqingtian clarified their doubts. Do you believe Zhuofan and esoteric debate to be 2 separate matters? Despite everyone avoiding his powerful and steady gaze, there were nods. Humph, ignorance! Huang Puqingtian mocked. Fools! You have that wretched mentality that says he is only a talented cultivator, that you will sooner or later put him down with the power of your houses. What if I tell you that as long as he's around, Luo clan will stand abreast the 7 houses in 10 years, surpass us in 20, and in 30 it will be the strongest clan in Tianyu that not even all 7 houses together can oppose? Will you still think this esoteric debate to be nothing but a boring game? This can't be. This was too much to bear. Yu Yushan was even denying it as he second-guessed Huang Puqingtian's words. Eldest young master, aren't you exaggerating? The legacy of the 7 houses is 1,000 years old. He won't reach our level in a century, not to mention decades. Humph, exaggerate? Ha ha ha, if it was me saying that, your reaction would be inexcusable, albeit understandable. However, the crowd was hanging on every one of his words. Huang Puqingtian snickered. What if it came from Sir Lum? Would you doubt the words of a cunning man with ineffable plans like the unwanted contriver? What? Lum Wuchang said that? They just got the shock of their lives. For even Ling Wuchang to say that, it meant the prediction had to be true. They just couldn't wrap their head around how Zhuofan being a monster gifted with such godlike skills. Huang Puqingtian smiled at their skepticism. Sir Ling said he is of incredible talent, equal to Zhuge Changfeng. He only needs to grasp power, and he will soar beyond anyone's reach. That is why we need to clip his wings before he can fully spread them. Or the 7 houses will soon be no more. Shame drifting flowers edifices, veiled dragon pavilion and sword marquise abode are too blind to see it. They are playing with fire standing behind him and will find one day robbed of everything. But the Luo clan is under the imperial family's protection, and they have Duge Zhantian for support. We are without means to strike him down in any other circumstances. The only way to eradicate him is to do it within the bounds of the esoteric debate. Huang Puqingtian turned his bloodthirsty eyes to them. That is why our main mission in the esoteric debate is to get Zhuofan's head. Everything else is secondary. The others turned grave, realizing Huang Puqingtian had finally revealed Regent Estate's real objective for the esoteric debate, but this was nigh impossible to achieve. Harder than gathering the brimming sacred pills and facing spiritual beasts after witnessing Zhuofan's mystical abilities, they came to realize that he was unrivaled beneath the radiant stage. Even the heaven-shaking Dragon Lord, the strongest of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, had allegedly barely overpowered him. But when they thought about ignoring him, that was an absolute no, or Huang Puqingtian would have turned him into a bloody damn smear by now. Why waste so much time explaining it to us? Eldest young master, how are we to go about purging Zhuofan? Our best chance was when we had everyone cornered and Zhuofan was forced to stay. But now they will be on guard and make it even harder. Yu Yushan sighed, grinning. Huang Puqingtian said, "That was our best chance? Ha ha ha, merely bait. The punk has bit on it, and all that is left is to wait for the poison to take its effect." Everyone was clueless, ignoring them. Huang Puqingtian turned towards where Chu Qingqing's group was last seen. Ha ha ha, they thought they'd escaped when in fact they fell right for it. Not even the cunning Zhuofan has hope of breaking out of Sir Ling's personally designed master plan. Relax, all's within my grasp. The others shuddered, clueless as to what got into him, and since Sir Ling intervened himself, then this should be a done deal. Sir Ling was hailed as the #1 schemer. With a 0 fail rate, the shadow tailing them was startled. I've heard of Tianyu's unwanted contriver, but never imagined he will lower himself to deal with a junior. Heaven-shaking Dragon Lord is talented and powerful, but now he even has Leng Wuchang behind him. Zhuofan, you are up against peak experts in both brawn and brains. If you fail, it's only fair I discard you. But if you win, you just became a hot commodity, hee hee hee. Chapter 299 Array Map. Chapter 299 Array Map. Rustle. A shadow streaked the sky, flashing in and out of view every mile. When he finally stopped, he had crossed tens of miles, listening to the ruckus a few miles out. He just gave a nod, more to himself, and was gone again. The final appearance was in the middle of the group. "Who?" Xie Tianshang shouted, sword at the ready. He saw everyone look on with joy. "Oh, you're finally back. Yeah, so what are you standing with your weapon drawn for? Put it away, will you?" Zhuofan rolled his eyes. Xie Tianshang shook his head as he did just that. "Brother Zhua is right. I wish to learn a lot from you in a spar, but it doesn't seem appropriate to do it in the middle of a crisis." Zhuofan's face twitched. "That's a martial fanatic for you. His mind is ever skewed in thinking fighting came first. At least he isn't a lost cause and a complete battle maniac yet." Zhuofan's return was met with jubilation all around, as if he had become the true winner of that little skirmish back there. Even the vassals forgot about their true masters and they looked up at him in reverence. It was only a matter of time. With the three houses now willing to follow Zhuofan's every word, it was obvious who the little clans would choose. Zhuofan's earlier turning point was the crux. If not for his timely help in clearing a path, they would have been mowed down. They had witnessed it themselves. It was no wonder he was hailed as a savior. Zhuofan's image soared in their minds. "Zhuofan, are you hurt?" Chu Qingqing came over. She saw the light scratches and spoke softly. Her face was calm, but the eyes spoke volumes of the deep care and worry she had for him. Zhuofan brushed it off and switched topics. "It's fine. But Huang Puqingtian isn't a pushover. Oh, what of Ninger and my spirit animal?" Chu Qingqing dimmed, knowing he didn't want to talk about it. She was so aggrieved for not being able to make sense of his thinking. Dong Tianba graced her with a thorough analysis of Zhuofan's heart's ranking, but it was just that, guesswork. In the end, only Zhuofan knew what he was thinking, and this got Chu Qingqing vexed the most. Any woman wished to know if the one they loved thought about her the most. Then there's Zhuofan, who was always so vague and dodgy that no one could get a single clue what went on in that big brain of his. "Brother Zhua, your spirit animal is so fierce none of us dare even approach. What is even stranger, it seems to have taken a particular liking to young Miss Xuet and second young Master Xie. Look for yourself." Long Xingyun smiled and pointed above. Zhuofan was dumbstruck. He saw a purple lightning drifting through the clouds. And on Qiao'er's back was a man and woman having a blast. Who else but Xuening Xiang and Xie Tianyang? Zhuofan felt depressed at their entertainment. A thunder skylark is a high-level spiritual beast, so what is it doing getting so attached to strangers? But then it dawned on him Xuening Xiang and Xie Tianyang wore thunder rings he refined from Qiao'er's mother. They held its mother sent such an outcome was obvious. Shaking his head, Zhuofan sighed. "Fate, I guess." That threw the others off. Qiao'er noticed Zhuofan and chirped cheerfully. Seeing where they were flying, Xuening Xiang waved. "Big brother Zhua, welcome back!" Only Xie Tianyang's mood sank. "Here comes the third wheel." Smiling, Zhuofan gestured for Qiao'er to come next to him. Xuening Xiang jumped off the bird and skipped over with rosy cheeks and a sweet smile. Big brother Joie, is it the same thunder skylark young we found in Allbeast Mountain Range? Yeah. I got it to hatch. Fan ruffled her hair. Xue Ningxiang bobbed her head and treated Qiao'er as seeing an old friend. How adorable, just like its mother! Her words set the crowd off in a round of twitching. Fan wasn't exempt. If there was anyone among them who'd call Qiao'er adorable, then that would be the ever-naive Xue Ningxiang. They recalled with dread how Qiao'er flew in a circle once and blasted experts to smithereens. How in hell is that adorable? They all went silent, having no clue how to break its shriek. Qiao'er's sharp cry and piercing eyes raised everyone from their stupor to demand, "You dare say I'm not? Go on, make my day." Shivering, they all bobbed their heads, completing the image with a bright smile and a soaked back. Having got its wish, Qiao'er chirped and gave Xue Ningxiang a smile. Fan shook his head at how fast the beast and girl had hit it off. Is Qiao'er taking Ninger as its mother? Fan's cheeks went ablaze as his mind spun. He was Qiao'er's dad and Ninger its mom. Then he and Ninger. Oi, Fan, how the hell have you been raising it? It's no less monster than you are. Mind giving it to me? Xie Tianyang showed his greedy side that caught Xie Tianshang's attention. Looking at Fan expectantly, he wasn't thinking what an asset such a strong spiritual beast would be to Sword Marquis' abode. Oh no, he only saw the spiritual beast as an endless sparring partner to hone his edge. Martial fanatic. Did one need to say more? Fan arched an eyebrow. What do you think? No. Xie Tianyang's face twitched. Then cut the crap. Fan glared. Who in their right mind would give away a potential sacred beast? He didn't have a screw loose. Xie Tianyang shrugged. Just saying. Geez, can't you take a joke? Though the envy had yet to fade from his eyes every time he saw Qiao'er. This spirit animal was just too damn overpowered. Just the fact that Fan had such an insane spirit animal was enough to spur Sword Marquis' abode's desires. Xie Tianyang saw Xue Ningxiang cuddling Qiao'er and his heart sank. Though no one noticed. Once the pleasantries were over and done with, it was time to return to the grim and bitter reality. Brother Xue, what do we do now? Long Xingyin asked. Fan muttered. Our main priority is to find the keys and exit stones. To leave this place at once. We'll just ignore brimming sacred pills, as life is far more precious. I can search for them myself if I have to. The words cut deep and they sighed with hanged heads. He didn't need to be so blunt about it for them to understand. They were dead weights, pure and simple. The earlier battle was proof enough. They were the reason for Fan's limited actions. If he was alone he could come and go as he wished. They all turned bleak, but knew the truth in Fan's words. In this battle, they had no advantage whatsoever and would sooner or later end up as Huangpu Qingtian's pawns in this damnable place if they lingered. None spoke as they watched Fan gloomily. Xie Tianshang broke the silence with his sigh. We still want to fight, but Brother Xue is right. With how weak we are, it's better we leave. Long Xingyin, take it out. We and Brother Xue need to consult on the best way to leave this place. Fan looked at them puzzled. Do they have a secret weapon? Easing a breath, Long Xingyin revealed a piece of silk. I am a man living in the present. I do not care as much about the esoteric debate as Brother Xie does. But going home in such a wretched state is not what I want to see. Fan unfolded the silk and cried. Beast King Mountain's array exit map? On the detailed map, 5 points stood out, the 5 national elemental stones meant to take them home. With the yin-yang metal keys, all they had to do now was get to the metal exit and they'd be home free. Fan stared at the others. Can it be trusted? Long Xingyin spoke seriously. That's what we would like to know by consulting you. With a shout, some profound heaven experts were hoisting 2 scared people over. At the sight of them, Fan sported an odd look as he said, You again! The 2 were bitter and shuddered on the ground with lowered heads. Chapter 300 Battle of the Minds. Chapter 300 Battle of the Minds. Kai shouting, Sun Yufei, didn't I tell you to beat it home? What are you doing here, and captives again no less? Fan mocked them for all their little worth. The 2 kneeled there bitterly and wretched. Not once making eye contact with Shuafan, Long Xingyun said, startled. Brother Shua, you know them? Meet the Luo clan traitors. His father was an elder in the clan and even close to the old clan head. Despite their transgression, Yahai had a good heart and spared them. Shuafan shrugged. Oh, and why did you capture them? Don't you know killing them is far easier? Long Xingyun gasped and said solemnly. To tell you the truth, we stumbled upon them not long after we escaped the Killing Blood Marsh. I wasn't planning on sparing them, but we found this map on them as well as 2 keys and a brimming sacred pill. Ah-he-hem. Long Kuei's signal came a tad too late, however. The damage was done. Long Xingyun now realized the error of his ways. Telling him about the map and keys was enough. What was I thinking bringing up the brimming sacred pill? Shuafan perked up at the mention of those 3 little words and his eyes practically shined. Brother Long, what of the vial? We found it. I realize that, but won't it be safer with me? Shuafan's demonic smile came next, followed by a genial smile. What if it were to fall in Huang Puqingtian's hands? That would be awful. We can't have everyone's interests be laid to waste because of one man, now do we? Shuafan's righteous speech didn't forget to include the public interest. Long Xingyun lost the moral high ground and handed the pill in defeat. He had hoped to enter the radiant stage with this pill, but now that ship had sailed. Long Xingyun wished he could tear his running mouth off. How could he be so stupid? Xie Tianyang and Long Kui knew Shuafan's character the best and only had sighs of pity. Once it's in Shuafan's clutches, there's no getting it back. With a gratified flash of light, Shuafan tucked the pill in the safety of his ring. He looked at the despondent Long Xingyun, even more pleased with 3 brimming sacred pills in the bag. Ring. Only the last one was left, and he'd have milked the esoteric debate dry. Finding 2 extra keys on Long Xingyun as well were the icing on the cake. It just so happened that he had a pair of keys as well. He could already open the fire and earth exits now. He could now leave this place whenever he wished with his spoils. Victory was at hand. The only problem was punching through Huang Puqingtian's blockades alone. He'd be home by now. But with so many people dragging their feet behind him. Shuafan's eyes landed on the kneeling duo. Brother Long fears the map may be a trap. That is what I assume, yes. Long Xingyun brushed past Shuafan's open appropriation of his wealth and said, They say as early as 2 weeks ago, Huang Puqingtian sent them in search of the keys to have full control of the battlefield. But I still feel this is too much of a coincidence. We just got out of danger yet met with these 2 who had the map we wanted. The more I think about it, the more I suspect it. That is why I had them on a leash until Brother Zhua returned to discuss it. Shuafan nodded inside. Long Xingyun was sloppy by nature, but he had a good head on his shoulders. At least the array map was clearly dubious, but for this fleeing group, it held absolute interest. The odds for a trap waiting for them was most likely certain. Even if he absolutely knew about it being a trap, its value outweighed the risks. This is one bait I can't refuse. Shuafan squinted at the pair. You better answer my every question. If I found out you're lying, I'll make it so even death would be your most cherished wish. The 2 shuddered but nodded. The fear had them soaked in sweat. Shuafan began. Did Huang Puqingtian make you wait for us? And no. Fearing Shuafan would find his answer lacking, he rushed with. There were 5 teams of us, each with its own area to search. We used the jade slip to keep in touch and made the map. What of the 2 keys and pill? We found them along the way. We used to have 2 pills, but a profound heaven expert stole one to take the credit, and you took the last 1 inch. Kai shouting was heartbroken, his voice trailing off. How could we be so down on our luck? The 2 pills were our promise to greatness. But at some point, their other profound heaven expert team member took one for himself, and when they thought the other was enough to get something good, they ran into these guys. Forget about merits when we're having enough trouble keeping our heads. The 2 fell deeper in despair. Shuafan saw them squirm and nodded. Long Xingyun added, Brother Zhua, what if this is a trap as well? There's no need to say it. They were once part of the Luo clan and understand them enough to know if they lie. Shuafan's eyes glinted. Long Xingyun and the rest were overjoyed. That validated the map as being genuine. They could survive this. Xue Fan shook his head, however. Don't be so quick to celebrate. The map could still be fake. What? The crowd was stunned, grinning. Xue Fan revealed a deep gaze. They are truthful, yes, but that doesn't guarantee Huang Puqingtian was honest to them as well. Now they looked puzzled as to why Xue Fan was still smiling. Doesn't that make this map useless? In another place, Huang Puqingtian pointed at an identical map Xue Fan had. Yu Yushan, you will set up an ambush at the metal exit. Yan Bangyi, you will stake out the fire exit. Me and Lin Xianfeng will be watching the earth one. Remember what I said. Others do not matter, but one person has to breathe their last at all costs. Make sure they die in excruciating pain and suffering. The three felt uneasy. Eldest young master, we understand your wish. But will killing this person have any effect on Xue Fan? Yi Yushan frowned. With how we handed the exit's locations along with keys and even a brimming sacred pill, they can now flee without worry. Wouldn't it have been better to give them a fake map? With an evil grin, Huang Puqingtian mocked. Imbecile, you think you can fool Xue Fan's cunningness with a fake one? But isn't he far too paranoid to believe even the real one? Yan Bangyi frowned. Huang Puqingtian smiled. All the more reason why we gave him everything to believe. Even the two prisoners are real. The two were purposefully kept in the dark, limiting their knowledge to the array map, keys and pill. It's all because my men guided them from the shadows. Their words are without a doubt genuine. He will never realize we'd even lie to our men all so we could trap him. No matter how shrewd he is, he will never get one falsity out of those two. The others lit up, with Lin Xianfeng giving a thumbs up in his flattery. Eldest young master is wise. Versed in pen and sword. Humph, this is part of Sir Ling's plan. I have nothing to do with it. Huang Puqingtian shook his head, holding the very last brimming sacred pill vial in his hand. Yi Yushan looked at it with a sigh. Of our 3 pills, we only have one. What are you so worried about? With Xue Fan's greedy nature, he won't be satisfied with just 3. He will want the last one as well. We just have to deal with him, and the others will be easy pickings. Huang Puqingtian sneered. Follow the plan and we will have the 3 vials as well as his head. Ha ha ha. Huang Puqingtian's cackle got everyone excited. The operation to eradicate soaring demonic dragon was a go. Chapter 301 Mo. Chapter 301 Mo. A group of people were resting in the dense forest, while Long Xingyun, Xie Tianshang, Chu Qingqing and Xue Fan inspected a map. Long Xingyun was the first to speak. Brother Xue, do you see something wrong with the map to call it a fake? None whatsoever. Be it the captives or the map, they are both beyond reproach. Xue Fan shook his head and his gaze hardened. But there's no way I take it for granted when something so good just comes and falls into my lap. It goes double for something we need the most. Silence pervaded for a while, then Chu Qingqing ventured. Maybe we do not need this map. We could go opposite dash. Who says we don't need it? Xue Fan butted in with a smile. If it's real, that turns it into a trap. This makes it worth using it. Since they went out of their way to plan against us, we'll just beat them to the punch. The others didn't know where he was going with this, so Xue Fan held out the 3 sending jades. He left a message on them, then left one to each of them with a crafty smile. Wait for 5 days, then read it. Xue Fan jumped to his feet and barked. Listen up. We're moving out. Form 3 divisions around the 3 houses and split up for the 3 exits. Split up? Why make them weaker than they already were? Xue Fan handed over the exit keys and said, Yes, split up. With our size, it's very easy to be spotted. Smaller teams will allow us to move unnoticed. In the case of an enemy encounter, it would also be simple to flee and hide among the thick trees. While others nodded, Chu Qingqing pulled Xue Fan to the side. What if the map is fake and the exits hold nothing but traps? We won't know unless we try. We finally got an exit route as well. Even if we clash a few more times in the Beast King Mountain, it will be easy to escape while whittling down their bone-tempering experts' number. It will end with them being reduced to nothing. This is our best bet. Zhua Fan put on a smile and turned to the rest. Each team will send out 3 Profound Heaven experts to scout 30 miles ahead, reporting back on the hour. Understood. They all replied, and Zhua Fan said to Chu Qingqing, even if they meet a trap, they can get an early notice. Glaring at him, Chu Qingqing shook her head. You're full of tricks. As they all got ready to set off, Luo Yunhai's team followed behind Drifting Flowers edifices just as Long Xingyun brought the 2 prisoners. What do we do with them? Let them go. Zhua Fan spoke coldly. The others whipped their heads around in shock. Long Xingyun was the most affected. They'll betray our plan if they're found. It will happen regardless. Recall what happened in Killing Blood Marsh? We have a mole among us. These two's situation has already been reported back. Letting them go or not won't make a difference. Zhua Fan sighed. What a shocker. How could we forget? We still have a spy unaccounted for. Everyone looked around suspiciously. Zhua Fan said, this isn't the time to draw him out. We'll do that once we get back to the safety of Dragon Cloud City. But a spy implies great danger. Xie Tianshang's face hardened. Zhua Fan sneered. What danger? He'll only rat out our movements. As long as we're fast enough, any information will be worthless, and they won't be able to act on it. On the contrary, if we suspect each other all the time, it will be a disaster only they will profit from. So get a move on. Reach the 3 exits on the double. The people were startled for a second, then their opinion of him grew. They never knew you could deal with a spy like that. Ignoring him yet moving faster than he could report would be the same as turning him useless. The way Zhua Fan boldly did things got even the army experienced Luo Yunhai in a daze. Not even Dugu Zhantian led his army with such valor. Big Brother Zhua is a true man of ambition to have so many great figures set their eyes on him. Set off! Let's see each other in Dragon Cloud City in 5 days! Zhua Fan shouted, and the other replied in high spirits, as well. Only Chu Qingqing and her 2 allies knew his true meaning. The nearest exit was a week away, while the farthest was 10 days. He was speaking for their own benefit. To check the sending jade 5 days later, the 3 noticed Zhua Fan's slight nod and smile. The group thus split into 3 divisions according to Zhua Fan's orders. They moved swiftly, curious to see if they or the spy's leaks were faster. The forceful way Zhua Fan dealt with the spy left the people fired up and eager for battle. Despite being a mere race to defeat the spy, to them it felt like they were battling against their greatest enemy, and winning too. They started to get a feeling of holding everything beneath them, of indomitable spirit, just like Zhua Fan usually was. Everyone was united in their goal and hearts. Kai shouting took an ashen Sun Yufei away. As they passed Zhua Fan, he asked, "Why let us go?" "No reason. Maybe I'm showing kindness for taking care of Luo clan in the early days. Or maybe I wish to see your agony for my sick humor. But I will admit to this, when it comes to garbage, killing or throwing it away makes no difference." Zhua Fan left as well, not minding them one bit. Kai shouting sighed and muttered, "Thank you." Then he slowly walked away with Sun Yufei. They had lost the hatred they clutched to so dearly, and it was now replaced by solitude. Recalling their derisory look when Zhua Fan entered the Kai clan, it all seemed like a poor joke now. He was a true man of ambition, and had brushed them off from the very start. It was them who kept having their goals growing higher and higher. The man had a clear vision of what he wanted, never changing, all while theirs did. He finally realized that 8 years ago, when Zhua Fan left Blackwind Mountain, he and his father were in awe of the man's talent, but never held him in respect. It came to him that even his father belittled Zhua Fan. Zhua Fan had such a talent lesser clansmen like them couldn't even begin to compare. Sighing, they slowly disappeared among the trees. "Big Brother Zhua, you're not coming with us?" Xuaningxiang ran to him. Zhua Fan shook his head. "There's something I must do. You and the Shui clan should go with Sword Marquis' abode. Xie Tianyang may be unreliable, but his brother is there to make it up for him. Few are his match, except Huang Puqin Tian. You'll be safe." "Oh, what are you implying? Who are you calling unreliable? What did I ever do to you to badmouth me to Ninger?" Xie Tianyang was annoyed and grabbed Ninger's shoulder. "Ninger, don't worry. No one will hurt you with me around." But Xuaningxiang didn't even register his presence. Her eyes fixed on Zhua Fan, her voice soft. When will we see each other again? In 5 days. Zhuo Fan smiled. That's a promise. You have to come see me in 5 days. Xue Ningxiang held out her thunder ring. You can't lie to me like you did in the All-Beast Mountain Range. Smiling, Zhuo Fan took out his own thunder ring and let them touch as sparks flew. I won't. Xue Ningxiang smiled brightly. To the rancor and jealousy of Xie Tianyang, Xue Ningxiang then dragged a stiff Xie Tianyang back to Sword Marquis Abode's division. Zhuo Fan shook his head and left in another direction as he heard Xie Tianyang's incessant begging. Ning'e, let our rings touch as well. No! Why? I beg you. Zhuo Fan shook his head, then turned to the aged man following Luo clan. Grandmaster Lu, come with me. I need your help. Lu Yijing jerked, but got there on the double. The two flitted through the trees and were soon gone. Half a day later, they stood atop a mountain peak regarding the breathtaking view. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and felt so free, relaxed and soothed. Those dead weights are about to leave. I haven't felt so at ease in ages. Lu Yijing smiled inside as he bowed. In the esoteric debate this century, the Three Houses Alliance hardly did anything. They could only hold on because of Grandmaster Zhuo's support, while they were holding you back. You couldn't be more right. Zhuo Fan cocked his head with a smile. Lu Yijing probed. Then, Grandmaster Zhuo, what are your orders? Oh, no orders. I only want to know where Huang Pichintian is right now. Doesn't he have another brimming sacred pill? I should pay him a visit and receive it. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed coldly. Lu Yijing felt a shiver crawl up his spine. Chapter 302 Tangled. Chapter 302 Tangled. Ah, Grandmaster Zhuo, I do not understand. How can I hope to see into Huang Pichintian's faction's movements? Swallowing dryly, Lu Yijing froze, stammering and darting his eyes anywhere but Zhuo Fan. Grinning, Zhuo Fan shook his head. My dear Grandmaster Lu, you're saying that even now? How would you leak our info if you didn't know his position? His heart beating out of his chest, Lu Yijing panicked as he explained. Grandmaster Zhuo, I don't understand what you... It's fine. You don't have to say it. I won't make it hard on you either. Just deliver a message for me and put that oh-so-great and stuck-up heaven-shaking dragon lord on the spot. Zhuo Fan brushed his panic off. Lu Yijing's beard shook, his face haunting. Zhuo Fan's inscrutable smile unnerved him the more he saw it. Is he faking it or omniscient? This is disturbing. Zhuo Fan's laugh came as an answer to his thoughts. Grandmaster Lu, you should know by now of my character. If not by seeing, at least from rumors. I don't need to justify myself when I want to kill someone. I just do it. On the other hand, if I want one alive, regardless of how vile and deceitful that person is, I won't lay a finger on him. Anyway, I've had my suspicions on you from the start. I could have killed you whenever I wanted to. But I think it's safe to say my actions prove there will be no killing from my part. Coming out clean won't make much of a difference either at this point. Who doesn't yearn for glory and power? But didn't I let Kai Shouting walk free? Zhuo Fan's daunting eyes stared Lu Yijing down. Lu Yijing was in a quandary, but nodded in the end. Grandmaster Zhuo is sharp beyond any man. I admit, it was unwanted contriver Ling Wuchang who ordered me to get close to Grandmaster Zhuo. I do not know how he knew, but he found out you and I were once acquaintances. So he made me spy on you. I refused at first, but then... Fine, the reasons are pretty much typical for any spy. If not out of glory and power, then from a threat. I totally get it. Zhuo Fan's nonchalant wave cut him off. Lu Yijing hung his head. Zhuo Fan is incredible. He knows everything. It was one thing to say power, glory or constraint, but how many could escape their clutches? Zhuo Fan stared at him. Now that that's out of the way, send a message to Huang Pichintian. What message? Lu Yijing was stunned. Zhuo Fan's conduct was baffling. He just got a hold on the enemy's spy, and he wasn't going to tear him asunder? And instead he was taking a step further, leaving the spy alive to send word to the enemy. It was as if they were on the same side. It totally floored the calm alchemist Lu Yijing. Ahehihem. Xuefan's straight face revealed a haughty air. Grandmaster Lu, when you see Huang Puqingtian, this is how you'll behave. You'll curse him. Stupid head Huang Pup, ignorant and trifling clown, yours truly has seen through it all. So tone down the drama and your petty tricks. I've been playing this game from before you were even born. Face twitching, Lu Yizhen sweated buckets. He ventured. Grandmaster Zhua, could you perhaps maybe ease on the rancor? I won't be able to imitate you. Was this a joke? Xuefan was having a blast here, cursing and wailing like he owned the place. But when the guy met Huang Puqingtian face to face, was he going to stick to the real message? Not if he wanted to come out alive. Ha ha ha, fine, as you wish. Just make sure he catches my drift. Xuefan looked uncaring, but his face turned deadly the next. However, this line you must say it word for word. His hand flashed and was now holding 4 brimming sacred pill vials. Lu Yizhen was slack-jawed. Xuefan easily read his shock and smiled coldly. Tell him this. Huang Puqingtian, you call yourself insidious and brilliant, but not even you would have imagined the last brimming sacred pill was with me all along. And you even laid out the stage to trap me? That's rich. Lu Yizhen blinked, counting the vials. It was clear as day there were 4, but the absurdity of it all made him second-guess that he'd been next to Xuefan all this time yet never knew where the guy got all the brimming sacred pills. So he always assumed Xuefan only had the 3, yanked from Huang Puqingtian's very hand too. That there never was a 4th, is this another pill he robbed? Lu Yizhen showed his shock. Grandmaster Zhua, if you already took Huang Puqingtian's last pill, why make me a messenger? Sure, Xuefan put a finger on his lips. The last pill wasn't taken, but slipped off of him. He's still oblivious. He knows what I can do, so telling him my message will make him understand. Make sure you get a clear view of his blind rage when he flips out and comes back to me, he. Blinking, Lu Yizhen sighed. They both knew Huang Puqingtian was gruesome, and yet Xuefan swiped his pill without the slightest indication. Unreal. Xuefan doesn't look to be lying either. He wants me to shame Huang Puqingtian further with that message. By all accounts, it didn't look fake at all. Xuefan actually swiped the oblivious Huang Puqingtian's brimming sacred pill from right under his nose. Taking a deep breath, Lu Yizhen's face hardened. Grandmaster Shui is incredible. There's nothing you can't do. I will pass on Grandmaster Shui's words, although the wording might not be as taunting. I get it. What matters is the essence. He will surely be pissed when he hears it, ha ha ha. Xuefan chortled. Lu Yizhen took 2 steps away before stopping. Grandmaster Zhua, could you please clarify something for me? Shu. Since when have you doubted me? Lu Yizhen asked, grinning. Xuefan said. From the moment I laid my eyes on you in Beast King Mountain. That fast? Lu Yizhen was stunned. He couldn't for the life of him see what gave him away. Xuefan shook his head. 1. I never believe in coincidences. The esoteric debate is held on Beast King Mountain, yet it just so happened for you to be here looking for herbs. Highly unlikely. You must have got here thanks to Huang Puqingtian's storage ring. 2. When I accepted you as a disciple, all you showed was respect and not joy. It was a complete contrast from how you reacted the first time you asked. I had my suspicions right then. And using apprenticeship as an excuse to help Luo clan, sealed it. All combined made your purpose in getting close to Luo clan obvious. Lu Yizhen looked long at Xuefan in shock. Sigh, I failed as a spy. You saw through me the moment we met. But why didn't you get rid of me then? To figure out Huang Puqingtian's plans, of course. Xuefan sneered. Each time you used the sending jade, I figured it was to leak our numbers, position, and members. This gave me an easy time figuring out what Huang Puqingtian was cooking, that he was aiming for those around me. Lu Yizhen's face twitched in shame. He not only failed as a spy, but was in utter disgrace. The info he sent was faulty and went as far as exposing his lord's master plan. Lu Yizhen's face was scorching. Grandmaster Zhua, you truly are cunning. No wonder Ling Wuchang stepped in personally. Lu Yizhen flew away, leaving Xuefan in shock. It was his first time hearing it, even considering that the mastermind wasn't Huang Puqingtian, but Ling Wuchang. In such a case, I have to hurry up. Zhuo Fan flew after Luizhen. In the shadows a day later, a light flew nearby. Zhuo Fan caught the sending jade, which wrote, "The soldiers return, the Dragon King is at peace." Sure enough, the array map is a trap. Grinning, Zhuo Fan shot 3 sending jades to his 3 allies. He then looked at the one in his hand and praised. "Perfectly done!" He resumed tailing Luizhen. Letting Kai shouting off wasn't out of the goodness of his heart, or, like he put it, out of indifference. But to use them and gauge Huang Puqingtian's reaction. If Huang Puqingtian raged, the 3 exits would be safe. If Huang Puqingtian didn't blame the 2, then it all went according to the man's plan and he needed to change the routes of his 3 allies. This was all made possible thanks to the spy he meticulously placed near Huang Puqingtian. Zhuo Fan wasn't beneath Ling Wuchang's capacity for treachery when it came to covert ops. While the factions looked subdued at a first glance, the darkness revealed a tangled mess. "I don't know anything." Luizhen was scared out of his mind. He was under the false impression that Zhuo Fan sent him on a mere errand to make Huang Puqingtian look bad with his message. Who even conceived it possible that there was a scheme involved? The worst part was that he made the old man a scapegoat with the 2 before him. Pissed, since they couldn't grab Zhuo Fan, who else were they going to take their anger out on? Not even washing in the underworld river would absolve him. He began as a spy for Huang Puqingtian's faction, only to end up dying at his hands. He was dubbed a double agent no one would take pity on. Quite fitting for a spy, and ironic he had now witnessed Zhuo Fan's capacity for savagery and cruelty. There was no getting out scot-free from him. With the double agent blame smacked on his shoulders, the insidiousness of the ploy finally dawned on him. Huang Puqingtian signaled Lin Xianfeng. "Stop, it's not his fault. He was also used. Eldest young master is brilliant." Luizhen bowed and wiped his brow. Huang Puqingtian gave him no attention and turned to the forest. "Since you came, why don't you come over for a talk?" "Ha ha ha, what's there to talk about? But since you insist, I'll meet you. I want to see with my own eyes the scowling and miserable face of a loser." Zhuo Fan walked from among the trees with a smile. The rest of the men there paled and tensed. Soaring demonic dragon was just as notorious as Huang Puqingtian. "Your men sure look terrified of me." Zhuo Fan mocked. Huang Puqingtian smiled coldly, not angered at all. "Zhuo Fan, there's a saying which fits you perfectly right now. Stop showing off, or you'll be struck down by lightning." "Ha ha ha, I've been doing it since I was born, but no lightning has touched me so far. Though it makes me wonder, what would it feel like? It must be quite the thrill." Zhuo Fan laughed, shaking his head. Huang Puqingtian grinned. "You will soon find out." Squinting, Zhuo Fan stared into Huang Puqingtian's eyes with unease. "By the way, Zhuo Fan, the vial you used to fool the old man must be the one you found at some point but never took it out. So when old Lu saw 4 vials, he jumped to conclusions. He would never dare lie to me otherwise." Huang Puqingtian's lips twisted into a smile. Zhuo Fan rose an eyebrow. "Look at you, young master Huang Pu. You're not as dumb as other muscle-brained fools around you. Ha ha ha, I am destined to be king. How can I be a fool? But to be entirely honest, it's not easy to see through it in an instant. I realize the truth because of something that is happening right now." Huang Puqingtian snickered. "Zhuo Fan, don't you have the 2 keys for the water exit yet? Keep them to yourself?" Zhuo Fan cried out. "How did you don't tell me?" "Correct. I sent my men to place them on your way when you were with Luo Yunhai's group. I didn't doubt for a second you'll miss them. So when Luizhen reported you not mentioning them when you met up with Chu Qingqing, it made me realize you were planning on using them when it mattered most. You once said we're both the same, that we won't show our hands so easily. Ha ha ha, a shame I already know of 2 of your cards." Shuddering, Zhuo Fan showed fear for the first time. His mind put 2 and 2 together, and his brow was soaked. Huang Puqingtian's heart burst with joy at his expense. Serling said the pinnacle of the art of war is to make the most of a situation. Not just get the enemy to fall for your traps, but to control their every move, to guide them where you wanted. Fan, from the moment you met with Luo Yuhai, your actions, your objectives, have all gone according to my plan. Including those fights we had. Although your fancy art gives me headaches, letting you win every time was all part of my plan. Also, you would become the de facto leader of the Alliance. It was the best way to ensure you will follow the road to hell I painstakingly paved for you. What? Don't tell me you haven't wondered how smooth your journey has been so far. You really think highly of yourself, able to face thousands of men and save everyone from the jaws of death? Humph, you lost, all because of your arrogance. Case in point, the Killing Blood Marsh skirmish. Did you ever think about why I didn't unleash all my power? You thought I was too cocky, thinking I had you all like fish in a barrel, so I was going to take pleasure in toying with you. Ha ha ha, I threw the match. Fan shivered, recoiling 3 steps, then shooting into the air after the 3 teams. I have completely lost. Fan shouted in his mind. Never had he been so out of control as he was now. Huang Puqingtian's side was having a blast, however. Cackling arrogantly, Fan was finally beaten back. Chapter 304 Deeper into the Mud. Chapter 304 Deeper into the Mud. Elite Coder. Lin Xuanfeng's eyes trailed Fan as he vanished in the distance. This is the first time I have seen that punk so out of it. What on earth happened? Ha ha ha, nothing much, just him sending his own friends to an early grave. Huang Puqingtian had a vague smile. He then turned to pat Luizhen's shoulder. Old Lu, well done. Just as I expected. Eldest young master, I don't deserve it. I've been found out since the start, ugh. He didn't finish as Huang Puqingtian squeezed his throat with a thin smile. No, old Lu, you don't have to be modest. You did great. Huang Puqingtian smiled, but his hand only clutched harder. The smile looked downright sinister at this point, instilling dread in the puzzled old man. How had he erred? Why had Huang Puqingtian stopped Lin Xianfeng from killing him, yet was now doing it himself? Eyes bulging, Luizhen could only let out hoarse sounds. Luizhen was just as perplexed as the victim. Eldest young master, what? Ha ha ha, I stopped you only because Fan was nearby. I didn't want to put on a show for him. But now, this old geezer has outlived his purpose. It wouldn't do if he fell into Dugu Zhantian's hands. Killing him here will spare me the trouble. Huang Puqingtian's eyes glinted and the vile snicker on his face grew. He put just a touch more force in his grip and the body shuddered for a moment. Then Luizhen's limbs went limp, flinging the corpse away. Huang Puqingtian clapped. Lin Xianfeng gasped, his mind overwhelmed. Huang Puqingtian is a beast to dispose of those he no longer has use of. He has not a shred of conscience. Will I end up the same? Huang Puqingtian knew this was coming, so he patted his shoulder, making him shiver. Worry not. Even if a cripple, you're the next in line to lead Merry Woods. You're so much more valuable. As long as you are by my side, I will do you no harm. Lu Xuanfeng's face twitched. He gave a hollow laugh while wiping his brow. Looking at Luizhen's body again, he sighed and sighed. Who is to say it won't change? But then Lu Xianfeng brightened. Eldest young master, since you could bring Luizhen, why didn't you do the same for the elders of our houses? Finishing off Fan then would have been so much easier. Fool, you take Dugu Zhantian in charge of Dragon Cloud City's defenses for a prop? Huang Puqingtian snorted. I only managed to bring him after treating him like a spirit animal, placing him in my storage ring. It is because of his insignificance that he went unnoticed. If it were an elder from the 7 houses instead, it would send an alarm to Dugu Zhantian and get us observed. If not for our low numbers keeping it under wraps, our plan would have fallen through. Lin Xianfeng bobbed his head, accepting the tongue lashing while not forgetting to polish Huang Puqingtian's rear with endless flattery. Huang Puqingtian waved him off. We're setting out for the Earth exit at once. Is there a point going there now that Fan knows our plan? Lin Xianfeng was bewildered. Huang Puqingtian's snide reply came. Idiot, we're going so that he'd walk right into our ambush. All the traps are in place. Despite knowing that, he has no way to foil them. Not when he had a hand in making it possible. That heart-rending regret, the gnawing guilt, must be quite the torment, ha ha ha. Huang Puqi cackled evilly. Lin Xianfeng still didn't get it, but did as was told in another place. Xie Tianshang's team had been heading for the metal exit for 3 days now when a sudden light flew over. Xie Tianshang caught it, knowing to be Zhuofan's sending jade that said, "Now you can look at the jade slip." Xie Tianshang was quite puzzled. Wasn't I supposed to do that after 5 days? Why so early? But since Zhuofan said so, he of course obliged. 5 simple words entered his eyes. "Head for the water exit." Ugh! Xie Tianshang was floored. What does that mean? Change course on the spot? Why? Is the metal exit dangerous? Xie Tianshang shouted without delay. Hold! We're changing directions. Follow me! Xie Tianyang pulled Xuaningxiang to the front among the baffled stares. Brother, what's up? We've been running for 3 goddamn days and you suddenly want to change course? Is it an enemy attack? No. Xie Tianshang shook his head, giving him the jade slip. This is the jade slip Zhuofan gave me before we split, saying to inspect it 5 days later. But I just received word from him to look at it now. And it said? Xie Tianyang looked at the jade. Head to the water exit? What the hell? I don't know either. But since Zhuofan said so, he must have his reasons. Xie Tianshang's eyes were firm. Xie Tianyang shook his head. Brother, since when did you become a fan? What if he's wrong? How many times was he wrong in the past days he was with us? We hardly ever suffered any setbacks as well. While in a situation I cannot fathom, listening to his judgment is a sound decision. Xie Tianshang's mind was set. Xuaningxiang spoke first before Xie Tianyang could. Brother Tianyang, has Big Brother Zhuo ever been wrong? Listen to him. Don't you recall the All-Beast Mountain Range? Didn't he fall for Yugiki's ploys time and time again? But with no Yugiki around, Big Brother Zhuo is the strongest, right? Xuaningxiang was zealously defending Zhuofan's honor. Xie Tianyang's mouth twitched, feeling his heart ache. And since he could do nothing to Ninger, he could only compromise, and so, led by Xie Tianshang, the Sword Marquis Abode team turned towards the water exit. Chu Qingqing and Long Xingyun's team received Zhuofan's message as well and were heading in the same direction. None knew, however, of the 10,000-strong army waiting for them there, led by Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan on top of a majestic mountain. Yu Yushan looked on in the distance but didn't spot anyone. He took out his jade slip and sighed. Well, Poisoner, what's your take on eldest young master's action? Giving us a jade slip to open a day later, only to have our course changed to the water exit and set an ambush here. Why didn't he say so from the start? Why make us waste so much time first going to the fire and metal exits? He was afraid of having the info leaked. Yan Bangyi's grim face shuddered in fear. Yu Yushan raised an eyebrow. Does that mean there's a spy among us? Ha ha ha, you crack me up. Any spies will be on their side. Is there any lesser clan out there willing to offend Regent by becoming a spy? Not to mention the dozens of vassals on their side willing to lean on the Regent estate, giving us their movements of their own accord. Be that as it may, it never hurts to be on the safe side. Especially at such a crucial moment in our plan. Yan Bangyi muttered. As this is Sir Ling's ploy, we only need to follow it. Yu Yushan nodded as well. The two saw Ling Wucheng's mind infallible, his plans perfect. All they had to do was just do what he said. Senior brother, young master Yu, the 3rd grade array below is set. Yan Fu bowed in respect before the two, nodding. Yan Bangyi waved him off. Junior brother, you worked hard. Withdraw. Thank you. Yan Fu bowed and left. Yu Yushan mocked the retreating figure. The kid has been quite meek as of late. Not even a hint of dissatisfaction on his face either. Well, he is a rare genius alchemist Pil King Hall raised after all. Ha ha ha, ever since Zhuofan killed vicious Pil King, he lost all support. He must have finally accepted his fate to turn so quiet. Those two only ever looked at others from their high horse. Even you? Yu Yushan raised an eyebrow. They traded a glance, then jeered. The mockery from above slammed into Yan Fu's ears. His fists clenched, and his eyes glinted with savagery. One day you'll get what you deserve, and I'll be there to watch you die. In the meantime, Xuefan was rushing towards the water exit. With no time to notify the teams, he could only hope he'd make it in time to rescue them. His mind kept drifting to the worst-case scenarios, making him clench his jaw and plagued him with worry. He told them to go for the water exit, and was sure they would follow it. This was what made it ever worse, riddled with guilt, and yet in complete awe of the mastermind behind it all, to be seen through so thoroughly that even implicated his allies in this trap. He felt toyed, like how a cat did to a mouse. The mastermind was no ordinary man to make even the great Xuefan fall for his schemes. This man's schemes were on a whole another level from Yugiki's unwanted contriver, Lem Wuchang. Xuefan gnashed his teeth in rage. He had already guessed the true architect behind all this framing. It was not that arrogant prick, Huang Puqing Tian, but Regent Estate's steward, the second greatest mind of the Tianyu Empire, Lem Wuchang. Revenge was out of his sight for now. All he could do was to try everything in pulling through this desperate situation. Then, Xuefan sensed a bone-chilling air as he passed. Looking below, he found a clear pond releasing cold air from its center. 1,000-year-old frigid pond. Eyes squinting, Xuefan dived. Chapter 305 Ambush. Chapter 305 Ambush. Elite Coder. Before the Water National Elemental Stone, on Dragon Cloud City's side, everyone had gathered close to observe the show as it unfolded. Since 3 days ago, the audience saw Yen Bangi and Yu Shan leading 10,000 men over. Some speculated that the two had found the keys to the water exit and were about to return in time. It became clear that they had no such intention. Instead of getting closer, they were setting up an array nearby, clearly an ambush. Yet for 3 days, all was quiet. The audience was observing unnerved, especially Grandmother and Long Yifei's group. All the preparations were clearly meant for Chu Qingqing and company. But were they going to fall for it that easily? Noon knew what was happening on Beast King Mountain, adding to their worries, their frowns never leaving their faces. They prayed with all their heart for their successors to not fall for it. Regent Estate's side was smiling. Estate Lord, eldest young master, has entered the final phase of the plan. Ling Wuchang stroked his beard. His eyes shined and his mouth perked up in a proud smile. Huang Putianyuan nodded. Sir Ling's mind is brilliant. I have no doubt you can purge that evil this time. As long as Sir Ling intervenes, not even that demon can escape. You're too kind, Estate Lord. I may have presented eldest young master with the plan, but it was his remarkable wits that led it to fruition. I do not dare take all the credit. Ling Wuchang faked modesty with an odd smile. Huang Putianyuan said, No, Sir Ling. This is all thanks to you. If it were you leading the operation, it would have been finished much sooner. Lin Wuchang looked at him deeply and nodded. He knew of Huang Putianyuan's dissatisfaction for his son, scared the young master earn enough merit to depose him. So he'd rather let Ling Wuchang take all the credit, all to undermine Huang Putianyuan's achievements, such as the Regent Estate, where father and son are fighting tooth and nail in pursuit of power. Lin Wuchang shook his head as he mocked them. Sir Ling, are you sure 10,000 men are enough to deal with Xuefan? A smiling voice drifted over. Ling Wuchang turned to see Zhuge Qianfeng flanked by his elders coming over with a crafty smile, eyes flashing. Ling Wuchang shook his head. My meager skill is only good for entertainment. I wouldn't dare boast before the great Prime Minister. As for this ambush, it isn't to deal with Xuefan. Oh? Zhuge Qianfeng raised an eyebrow, but then he said after a moment of pondering. First deal with the horse, then the rider, right? Prime Minister Zhuge is truly wise. Ling Wuchang nodded. You know the saying, those whom God wishes to destroy, he first makes them mad. Xuefan is not only powerful, he has many odd tricks up his sleeve. And let's not forget his devious mind and penchant for schemes. If we do not rob him of his reason, not even a foolproof plan conceived by us two together would work. By the sound of it, Sir Ling has already found his weakness. Or you wouldn't be so open with your designs. Raising his eyebrows, Zhuge Qianfeng smiled. Who is it then? Luo Yihai or? Ling Wuchang shook his head, his wording vague. Prime Minister Zhuge, You will know soon enough. I believe not even Sir would conceive it possible who his fatal weakness was. Zhuge Changfeng's reply. Ha ha ha, Sirling, you're even holding me in suspense. Very well, I'll just have to see for myself then, how that demon loses his mind. Ling Wucheng smiled back at the Water National Elemental Stone. At this time, a group appeared on the big screen. Grandmother and Long Yifi froze at the sight of them. Their hearts tensed and cold sweat filled their fists. They wished nothing more than to shout at them, to warn them of their demise. A darn shame the teleportation array was one way only. Their warnings would fall on deaf ears while Ling Wucheng and Huangpu Tianyuan showed a snicker. They're finally here. Two teams were clearly distinguished, Sword Marquis abodes and Veiled Dragon pavilions. They were far quicker than Chu Qingqing and even met along the way. Just what was Xuefan thinking when sending us here? We're clearly wasting time wandering all over the place. Xie Tianyang was holding a leaf in his mouth. Brushing away a bush while complaining of boredom, Long Xingyun laughed. Second young Master Xie, ever heard of the lies and truth and lies used in the art of war? To deceive one's enemy you must deceive your allies. Those 3 exits were nothing more than a lure for the enemy, while we changed our course midway towards our real purpose. Yeah, Brother Tianyang, you need to learn from Big Brother Zhua. Even he knows more than you about what's going on. Xuaningxiang jumped in, pointing at Long Xingyun, while calling out Xie Tianyang's flaws. Xie Tianyang sneered in silence, while his heart bled from anger. You're saying as if Xuefan's every word is the unblemished truth. Long Xingyun nodded first, then his face twitched. The last sure has a mouth on her. What do you mean by even he knows? Are you saying I'm usually an ignorant Philistine? Do I look that stupid to you? Then, a cry broke their ceaseless argument. Long Kui shouted as she pointed at the shining water crystal. There's the water exit. The map is real. The others perked up, thrilled at the prospect, and rushed over. Ha ha ha, the water exit is here. Brother Zhua was right all along. Long Xingyun laughed, running as well. Xie Tianyang mocked though. Why are you so chipper? We don't have the key, do we? Dunce, since Brother Zhua told us to come here in particular, he must have gotten the keys without even us realizing it. Long Xingyun was over the moon, so much so he forgot who just spoke and cursed back. Xie Tianyang was annoyed but didn't let it show. Xuaningxiang, the picture of ignorance, fanned the flames. Yeah, dunce. Do you have rocks for brains? You think Big Brother Zhua would have us come here on a whim? The speaker was clueless to the damage, while the listener found the words intentional to spite him. Xie Tianyang's flames of rage burned hotter than lava. His fists clenched, his teeth grinded. Why does everyone look up to Xuefan and always take me down a peg? He didn't much care about the rest, but even Ninger, the one he cared the most about, did it. He just couldn't accept it. A seed of hatred was planted in his heart, towards his brother who he went though life and death once a change no one there noticed. Before the Water National Elemental Stone, Grandmother's group was so keyed up, their hearts practically flat-lined as they prayed, "Don't come any closer, it's a trap." The utter powerlessness they felt watching their clansmen walk into the jaws of death was so strong she felt like her heart was being stabbed over and over, one step at a time. Lin Wucheng and Huangpu Tianyuan watched them getting closer, and the grins turned sinister. It soon turned into joy at the expectancy for bloodshed that followed upon noticing a dainty figure among them all around the water exit. Yan Bandi and Yu Yushan's forces laid in wait. Once the two noticed the carefree figure among their prey, they signaled, "Our target's here! Attack!" They both shouted in unison. Then, a glow started rising from beneath everyone's feet. 36 light pylons shot for the skies, trapping them all at the same time. Each of the pylon beams was shown to be housing a person. As the scenery began changing, the water exit vanished, soon replaced by bloody skies and blood-tainted air. They seemed to have found themselves in another world. Not Beast King Mountain of Tianyu Empire. It was such an odd place they may not even be in the Martial Emperor continent. A 36-man array! Long Xingyun cried. Damn it! We've been trapped! It was clear as day to all. This was not an array controlled by a single man, but by 36 people. Such a meticulous array needed ample time to be set in motion. In other words, this was a well-thought-out ambush, so much so it began well before they even rushed here. But how? Xue Fan told them to come here. Why would he lead them into a trap? None could accept what was before them and chose to deny reality. But the facts were laid bare for everyone. Xue Fan had sent them to hell. Give them no quarter! A shout unleashed a flood of 10,000 men coming at them from all directions. They were so panicked they couldn't tell where the enemy was coming from, thinking of nothing else than of escape, but trapped as they were, with all sides painted red, they had no way to distinguish the exit. Chapter 306 Deadly Miasma. Chapter 306 Deadly Miasma. Elite Coder. What do we do, brother? The frightened Long Kui turned to Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun wasn't faring any better, his eyes darting everywhere. Noticing the 36 pylons, his face grew grave. If we want to survive, we have to first get out of the array. The 36 lights are tied together, making it impossible to break the array from the inside. We need to find the exit if we want to escape. Long Kui and the rest were even more restless. Looking at the flood of enemies charging, their faces were ashen. How were they supposed to do that when that army would make sure to keep them trapped here even tighter than the array? The array's only use was to rob them of their chance to escape. It made even profound heaven experts flying impossible, to the extent that even 6 dragons and 1 phoenix were incapable of doing it. Everyone hung their heads in despair, having lost their will to fight. Humph, it's just finding an exit. Is that so hard? We'll just have to try them one by one. A snort came just as a black figure flashed into the enemy's ranks. Golden light blossomed as it flew in every direction. Wherever it landed, explosions resounded, paving the ground with hundreds of corpses. The blood flew into the air, only to fall right back down, onto the scattered limbs. They saw how the twisted smiles of the enemy had now turned into ones of horror at the sight of this man's sword. Marquis Abode's eldest young master, martial fanatic Xie Tianshang. Xie Tianshang rested his sword, but his cold eyes glinted like daggers. Any that met his gaze would feel as if stabbed by 1,000 swords. His dauntless figure stood unchallenged like an unparalleled sword. The enemy was deterred, in fear of what might happen if they got even an inch closer. Long Xingyun blinked, then turned ecstatic. Brother Xie lives up to be a true martial fanatic. How dependable! But of course, my brother has been obsessed with martial arts since young, training day in day out without a rest. If not for those 2 monsters, my brother would have been invincible. Xie Tianyang spoke with pride. Everyone else sighed and sighed. Xie Tianshang is the #1 swordsman in Tianyu. Not even 6 dragons and 1 phoenix can match his talent. Just that heaven-shaking dragon lord upstaged him, followed closely by that bad apple Xue Fan. Sealing any chance at showcasing his might. With those 2 out of the picture, the world would finally bear witness to the true might of this martial fanatic. Rolling his eyes, Long Xingyun roared, Brother Xie, clear a path. We're right behind you. Grinning, Xie Tianyang said, Brother Long is so shrewd in bringing up the rear. When my brother pushes through the array and is too exhausted to carry on, you could just run off. Ha ha ha, Brother Tianyang. No need to split hairs. We are allies here. You help me now, and I'll help you later. We will both benefit. Long Xingyun pointed at Xie Tianshang. Moreover, don't you find your brother quite willing to be made use of? Sure enough, Xie Tianshang's eyes lit up at this proposal, as if he was just waiting for it. All right. Every swing of the sword sent golden light everywhere. Flowing spaces 9 forms were performed to the full extent of their splendor, at the expense of crushed enemies and strewn corpses. It only took seconds for the casualties to reach 1,000 as the surroundings glowed bloody. Now so too did the earth. Xie Tianyang shook his head as his brother was hell-bent on mowing through the enemy like they were training dummies. Sigh, the martial fanatic side of my brother is once again rearing its head. Nothing short of exhaustion or defeat could ever stop his blade now. The others found Sword Marquis Abode's eldest young master's burst in courage contagious. It reached a point where some even wanted to join the man in his charge, but taking a closer look, one saw a bloodshot Xie Tianshang, slaughtering every which way with a manic grin on his face. That threw a bucket of cold water on their enthusiasm. "He'll kill us just the same." Long Xingyan rubbed his chin, nodding at the crazed figure. He guessed there was no pressure in finding the exit. At least with Xie Tianshang on a killing spree, the enemy would swiftly be disposed of. At the very least, sans Xuefan and Huangpu Qingtian, Xie Tianshang had become the de facto god of war, killing gods, demons, Buddha, and what not. "Xie Tianshang, don't be so smug. Face me for a change." A shout revealed a black figure charging Xie Tianshang. Xie Tianshang was overjoyed. "Ha ha ha, Yen Bongi, you're just in time. I grow tired of killing ants. Now I can finally hone my sword on you." Xie Tianshang pointed the sword at the sky. The sword energy burst with incredible might and sharpness. Yen Bongi squinted and leaned out of the way. The sword energy grazed his shoulder, peeling his flesh and making him clench his teeth from pain. The sword energy shot for the skies, where it exploded and rattled the 36 pylons. The men inside even had to spit blood. It dawned on everyone how mighty Xie Tianshang's sword truly was. Of the danger he represented, Yen Bongi couldn't afford to dodge again, forced to face Xie Tianshang head-on. A green miasma drifted from his hand as he made a palm attack for Xie Tianshang's face. Xie Tianshang turned serious and dodged in a rush. The miasma struck the earth with a bang, catching others in its path unprepared. It bored into them, eliciting a wail of agony, all while blood flowed like rivers from their twisted visage in mere seconds. All that remained were foul and reeking puddles of blood, good only to make one's stomach turn. Xuaningxiang hunkered behind Xie Tianyang as horror set in. The rest weren't faring any better, shocked at Yen Bongi's capacity for cruelty. Xie Tianshang squinted, his face stony, but not a trace of fear. Xie Tianshang's sword danced in his hand as he unleashed the 9 forms. Yen Bongi dodged in panic. Not for a second was he going to take the brunt of such deadly force. They hammered the array, and the 36 men in the light pylons heaved blood for a total of 9 times. Even the bloody sky dulled. The array was about to break. Yen Bongi was soaked in sweat, his heart a mess. If this kept up, he wouldn't even win, least of all kill the enemy. They had worked painstakingly in removing Xuefan from the mix, only to meet another freak. Xie Tianshang. It was common knowledge that the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, Huangpu Qingtian excluded, were on the same level, more or less. But this guy. Yen Bongi's face sank. If this operation fails, the plan to end Xuefan will fall through. Huangpu Qingtian wasn't going to take his failure lightly. That was for sure. Yen Bongi gnashed his teeth and released a 7-colored miasma, the signature move of Pill King Hall, Rainbow Cloud Palm. The miasma spread, swallowing enemy and friends alike, leaving behind naught but a bloody cesspool of festering pus in the hands of Yen Bongi. With his poisonous body, the Rainbow Cloud Palm was even more devastating. It was not without its demerits either. As the poison grew in strength, so too did his agony. Rainbow Cloud Palm was a double-edged sword. Each time it was used it gnawed at the user's body. And because it was him using it, the poison traveled through him far faster than any of his clansmen. Yen Bongi's face visibly darkened, with thick green blood dripping from his mouth. The wound on his shoulder festered as well, looking to turn him into a blood puddle, but he bore it, his hands still releasing that devastating miasma. He had to complete Huangpu Qingtian's mission, or he'd be dead either way. Xie Tianshang stared at the source of the miasma. He flicked his sword a few times, but the thick miasma swallowed them all like nothing. Xie Tianshang jumped back in the face of the spreading disease. Next to Long Xingyun, they watched as hundreds of their enemies died a gruesome death, tormented amidst the drifting pestilence. How vicious! Not even his allies are spared! Xie Tianyang gnashed his teeth. Long Xingyun's face grew hard. We have no antidote for Pill King Hall's Rainbow Cloud Palm. He is invincible. Numbers are useless when facing him. Once Rainbow Cloud Palm is in play, his dominance is assured. More so now, in this array. It's just a matter of time before his poison kills us all. Isn't there anything we can do? Xie Tianshang trembled. Long Xingyun's eyes glinted. Of course there is. Break the array and the poison will scatter. Easy for you to say. I struck it 10 times, but it is still holding strong. I need more time, time we do not have. Xie Tianxiang sighed at the dull, bloody sky. The others gnashed their teeth as well, drawing back just as the miasma crept nearer. Chapter 307 Breaking the Array. Chapter 307 Breaking the Array. The 36 pylons created a sealed space, trapping everyone within its borders and preventing any outsider from looking into it. Not even the audience watching the Water National Elemental Stone could pierce the veil. All they saw were the beams of light, mounting their unrest. Region Estate's side was the calmest of the bunch, going by their broad and sinister smiles within the bushes just ahead of the pylons. Chu Qingqing's team, a late arrival, was looking at the scene in bewilderment. They couldn't make heads or tails of this recent change. Why did Xuefan have them come here? A third-grade array? Chu Qingqing squinted. Luo Yuhai nodded. It also comes with a hidden army. For the ambush to succeed, the easiest would be an array with multiple controllers. Being slow on our way here had worked in our favor. For the trap to be sprung already, someone must have fallen for it. What? Are you saying Xuefan had us walk into a trap? Chu Qingqing cried in disbelief. Luo Yuhai nodded. Although Brother Zhuo's every scheme has come to fruition and is unlikely to make such a mistake, our pressing matter at this point is to break the array. Chu Qingqing nodded after a pause, then shouted. Men on me! We will break the array core and get them out. Understood. The men cupped their hands and charged alongside. Her grandmother's side was extremely worried. But Chu Qingqing's sudden arrival promised hope. At least the other two teams wouldn't suffer total defeat. Boom. Chu Qingqing struck the glowing pylons several times, until it was shuddering and flickering. But when there were 36 of them, each lending support, stabilizing the weaker link as such, Chu Qingqing's powerful yuan qi spread evenly among them. They were shaken but far from breaking. The rest assaulted the other beams. However pointless it was, grandmother's side was by themselves with worry. They were in a race against time. The longer they took, the heavier the casualties to the ones trapped inside in the trap. Long Xingyun and company were driven into a corner by the encroaching plague. When they ran out of places to retreat, some random subordinates were even pushed in front to make space. You are our vassals. Sacrificing yourself for your lord is downright honorable of you. They understood this logic as well and stepped forward without their master's urging. They braved the impending miasma, only to end up a festering pool of blood. Xuaningxiang was wrecked with sadness, tears streaming down. Aren't we all humans? Why must they sacrifice themselves? Therein lay the cruelty. If not them, who? The 7 houses? No matter how willing Long Xingyun and the rest were, which they weren't, the vassals would never accept it. Either it was easy to guess why. If they escaped this hell by the grace of their master's sacrifice, what future would their clans have? Extermination. So while this act looked quite virtuous and dauntless on the surface, at its core it all came down to saving their bloodlines. And who knew if their masters in their infinite mercy would perhaps look kindly upon their clans? The stream of sacrifices was endless, but the miasma forced them into a corner, with no way out. Long Xingyun turned glum. He turned to the dozen scattered men with a heavy heart. Any further sacrifices are pointless. It will hardly give us more room. Will we find our end here? His words made others lower their heads in grief. The earth, soaked in blood, only added to their sadness. Thousands of people came here, only to end up with barely enough to count on 2 hands. They couldn't deny their fate, certain to end up another bloody smear on the ground, joining the others. Oh, the tragedy! Boom! The sky shook at the sudden sound, and the bloody images around them dimmed some more. In Long Xingyun's eyes a faint hope blossomed. Someone is attacking the array! 150 years ago, we swore fealty to the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. His sunken face revealed he understood Long Xingyun's meaning. He bowed. I wish the eldest young master would look after my clan. You have followed my house for so long, and today's sacrifice won't be in vain. I, Long Xingyun, will never forget your devotion. Long Xingyun nodded gravely. The man's jaw was set, his eyes firm, and he charged at the miasma. Yet he barely touched it, and the poison was already gnawing at his flesh. Everyone watched as his blood soaked the ground. In a matter of seconds, Xuaningxiang wailed, burying her head in Xie Tianyang's shoulder. Xie Tianyang sighed and patted her hand in consolation. It came as no surprise to him, not how often he saw the 7 houses abuse their privilege. Long Xingyun stood cheerful in the freshly emptied spot. His calm face begged the question, did he even bother to remember the man's clan's name? Well, since someone was bashing the array, hope slipped into his heart. A second ago he wasn't intent on making more senseless sacrifices, not when they were doomed to die together. But now, even if he were to die, he'd make damn sure he was going to be last. What if he lived? Chu Qingqing and her men had struck the pylons of light dozens of times now without any result, each failure mounting their worry. Grandmother was sweating as well, while Xie Xiaofeng and Long Yifei, fearful of their son's fate, were devastated. No one there was more disturbed than them. Dugu Zhantian stood straight like a blade among them, eyes fixed on the image in silent worry. Dugu Lin muttered, Marshal, this 36 heavenly stars array. Stop, Yuhai should know a way. Dugu Zhantian waved his hand, his eyes confident. The tigers nodded, watching the young man in the national elemental stone with a smile. Luo Yuhai scrutinized the array and said, Edifice Lord Chu, the 36 heavenly stars array is laid in accordance with the 36 stars of the Big Dipper. If one holds, they all do. If one crumbles, they all collapse. Only by attacking the life gate will we tear the death gate open and break the array. You have a way? Chu Qingqing asked. Luo Yuhai nodded. This array is commonly used in the army. I've followed the Godfather for 2 years to learn about this array and asked Edifice Lord Chu to lend me all authority. Done. Chu Qingqing agreed on the spot. Luo Yuhai turned solemn and shouted, Listen all of you. Dong Tianba, take 300 men and attack the life gate in the center west. Xiao Dandan, take 300 men and attack the second death gate in the east. The rest will be with me in attacking the seal gate. The men set off at once like dragons. The 3 teams started raining havoc on the 36 pylons of light. When Dong Tianba attacked the light pylons at the life gate, he sent a ripple to the other beams. Then Xiao Dandan and Luo Yunhai's teams attacked their own targets and things changed. The other 2 ripples prevented the first from spreading to the other pylons. The 3 ripples converged onto a single pylon, stopping it from letting the others share the load. Soon, the man inside the pylon cried out, and as the pylon vanished, the man blew to pieces. The 36 light pylons had lost their balance, and they could no longer support each other. Dugu Zhantian laughed. Nice. The kid didn't waste the 2 years he was next to me. The 4 tigers of Tianyu nodded in pride. They were the ones who brought up this younger brother with them, and seeing him make a name for himself in the esoteric debate filled them with glee and pride. Grandmother's side nodded, glad as well. Who'd have thought the Luo clan didn't just have creepy Zhua Fan worthy of notice, but the young clan head as well? Surely not them. What surprised them the most were Zhua Fan's decisions. They all knew who brought Luo Yunhai into the limelight, Zhua Fan. With Zhua Fan always taking the lead in schemes and battles, the third-rate clan's kid would hardly show his face, would hardly prove his worth of being under Dugu Zhantian's care. Chu Qingqing was glad inside. Happy this array that had many of them vexed over popped open with a little effort from Luo Yunhai. Luo Yunhai didn't let this minor success cloud his judgment. The viewing gate is open. Attack the Pain Gate. Understood. The men responded, filled with zeal. Regent Estate's side turned glum, with only Ling Wucheng ever sporting that faint, mystifying smile. Ha ha ha, it's of no consequence. Chapter 308 The real target is her. Chapter 308 The real target is her. Boom. Booms sounded everywhere as Luo Yunhai commanded his 3 teams left and right. The 36 pylons of light were reduced to 26 in a matter of seconds. The others were stunned, cheering for the Luo clan. Their young master had grown up at last. He will make a fine clan head. When half of the pylons crumbled, the array formation was constantly shuddering from the strain. 18 pylons were hardly enough to sustain such a large array. Luo Yunhai shouted, Fall back! They all rushed away, but some were too slow in their retreat, and the exploding array engulfed them. Boom! The force of the blast smashed into the surroundings, while the unfortunate few who got caught in it were sent everywhere in pieces. Robbed of life before they could utter even a whimper, the lucky survivors saw before them a foul thick mist. They drew a breath, rejoiced having come out unscathed, only to be swallowed whole by the towering miasma. They wailed and cried even as their flesh dissolved into blood and pus, soaking the mud. Chu Qingqing cried, "Watch out! It's Pilking Hall's rainbow cloud palm!" A layer of ice appeared on her body as she spoke. She gathered her palms and erected a cold barrier. The miasma touched the barrier and let out hissing sounds, eating through it in moments. Chu Qingqing was shocked. Not even vicious Pilking's poison was that toxic. The saying that no one could defend against Yan Bongi's rainbow cloud palm, who had a poisoned body, wasn't unfounded. Gnashing her teeth, Chu Qingqing's only option was to retreat. Made painfully aware by the increasing number of victims, the miasma swallowed and dissolved. "Ha ha ha, Edifice Lord Chu, you're just in time. I'll never forget this life debt." Following the unbridled laughter, people trapped inside noticed Chu Qingqing, Long Xingyun, and Xie Tianchang's teams were free now. Just that they were reduced to less than 10 people. The core of the two houses was safe, while the vassals had gone to the underworld. Technically, there was one vassal who had pulled through, the Shui clan's siblings, thanks in no small part to Xie Tianyang and Zhuofan's fame. Or who knew when in this ordeal they'd be used as honorable sacrifices. Luck was with them at least, with the array giving way just as the miasma was about to devour them. They flew away the instant they could, joining up with Chu Qingqing. Long Yaifi and Xie Xiaofeng saw their sons safe and sound and eased a breath they didn't know they held. But looking at the sky covered in poison, then at the bloody mud below their feet, the gruesome hellscape left them soaked. The esoteric debate of this century was far more malicious. Perhaps the fact that the 7 houses were officially at war had something to do with it. For appearance's sake, the 7 houses abstained from a full-out war, letting their vassals be their proxy. But now, the vassals weren't the only ones turned into rivers of blood. The 7 houses were tearing into each other just as savagely. It was easy to imagine what would have happened if Chu Qingqing was even a moment slower in her rescue. The Sword Marquis's abode and Veiled Dragon Pavilion's bloodlines would have been cut short at the hands of Yan Bongi. The house lords of the 2 victimized houses sobbed inside. They prayed that the 2 could come out alive from the most cruel and savage battle that had ever happened over the past millennium. Hall Lord Yan Buigong's face bloomed with the most genial smile conceivable. He even made obvious signs to his allies, as if to say, "See that? That's the true power of our top art, Rainbow Cloud Palm. With one hand, the world's my oyster. No one would dare come closer." Everyone gave him a cursed look. Their disdain for this petty man's flair for the dramatic was evident. One had to admit, though, Rainbow Cloud Palm turned Yan Bongi into a killing machine in case of anyone else using it. Willpower was capable of pushing the enemy through adversity and come out alive. But replace the user with Yan Bongi, and they would dissolve into a bloody stain on the ground before they could even reach him. This was the horror. Yan Bongi of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, the plague dragon, brought to life. Only Regent Estate was shaking their heads, clearly unimpressed by the Rainbow Cloud Palm. On the other side, Chu Qingqing's team was pushed back further and further away from the spreading miasma. It ate through trees and even the toughest rocks, with the first turned to dust, and the second into an acrid liquid. The few cultivators too slow to keep up were swallowed by the toxic fumes, with only screams as an indication of what awaited on the other side. Chu Qingqing's brow was set in a heavy scowl. "We have to stop him or all our men will die." Long Xingyun nodded. "True. Every great clan and house in Tianyu is watching us from beyond the water exit. It would be a stain on our honor to allow Yan Bongi, a single man, push us 3 back. I have a way, but we need to combine our power. The risk may be high, but are you willing?" Chu Qingqing and Xie Tianchang traded looks, then nodded. "Speak." The 2's eyes lit up and nodded while a grinning Long Xingyun whispered in their ears. The 3 stopped shirking away from the pestilence and charged instead, giving others quite the shock. Are they suicidal? Not even 6 dragons and 1 phoenix are exempt from dying from that poison. But what happened next was the true shocker. Xie Tianchang took the lead, then slashed. A bright golden and unbridled energy cut into the miasma. The poison was forced to scatter, revealing a clear path ahead. The 3 followed the path, Just as the miasma was coming back with a vengeance, and trapping the trio, Chu Qingqing's prompt response was in the form of a flash of cold. Her hands moved, raising an ice wall around them and keeping them safe from the miasma, but the constant hissing bore testament to the poison's power, and the short life of the ice wall. Then again, it was enough to buy them an instant, and that was all they needed. Long Xingyan finally released the attack he had built up all this time in his palm. A dragon image pierced forth, forming a new path. The three followed the ice wall, gave away under the acidic poison behind them. But the sealed exit didn't seem to bother them. They had come here with no intent of retreating. In such a manner, Xie Tianshang and Long Xingyan showed the way, while Chu Qingqing kept the miasma at bay. They soon found themselves at the heart of it. The source of the poison. Xie Tianshang's last attack parted the thick poison, revealing Yan Bangyi constantly spewing blood. Yan Bangyi jerked in shock, sustaining the rainbow cloud palm for so long has seeped the poison into his organs, and it was in his worst hour that the trio revealed themselves before him. He was too weak to even hold back one, least of all a team of three panicking. Yan Bangyi was ready to bolt, but Long Xingyun had a different plan in mind. Appearing next to him, this is a once-in-a-blue-moon chance. I am an avid believer of one man's pain is another man's gain. Snickering, Long Xingyun struck boom. The palm attack sent the defenseless Yan Bangyi tumbling through the air. He was heavily wounded. The moment he flew was also the moment the miasma vanished. The three surrounded the wheezing Yan Bangyi, noticing the glee in each other's eyes. Lord Yan Bagong raved. Despicable and shameless bunch! All he got from the crowd was contempt. This is a house war. You call 3-on-1 unfair? What about Yan Bangyi's army outnumbering others 5-to-1 just moments ago? Yan Bagong noticed his slip of the tongue and went red. Grandmother and Long Yifi were ecstatic. But a peek at Regent Estate's unfazed reaction sank their moods. Just what are they up to? Then, Chu Qingqing's raging caught their attention. Yan Bangyi, you have no respect for human life. Not an ounce of mercy to be using such foul art. You deserve death. The earth soaked in blood was testament to the thousands of lives his pestilence had reaped. Chu Qingqing couldn't stop herself from cursing the weakened Yan Bangyi. Long Xingyan waved her off. Ha ha ha, Edifice Lord Chu, don't be upset. Capturing King Hall's Yan Bangyi makes all those thousands of sacrifices worth it. Not to mention that most of the deaths were from his side. This is clearly a worthy victory, ha ha ha. Chu Qingqing and the other women snorted at his laughter. You're saying that in war, it will all be fine as long as their side has the higher casualties. Do their lives mean nothing? Are all men that cold-blooded? They only dared complain in their hearts, having understood now the cruelty of war. Ha ha ha, you're not the only winners. With a bang, Xie Tianyang was sent flying. His spot was instantly replaced by Hell Valley's Yushan. By eldest young master's orders, the more gruesome this last death is, the better. I was vexed on how to go about achieving this, but now I have figured it out. With a dark smile, Yushan turned to the panicking Xuaningxiang. Her eyes reflected the claw clutching at her neck. The man exclaimed jubilantly, Miss, you should be honored. We sacrificed so many people just so we could let him see your twisted and mangled face, ha ha ha. Chapter 309 Ghost Hand. Chapter 309 Ghost Hand. Ninger! Shui Gang and Shui Lin cried out and attacked. The notion of fighting someone way out of their league was lost on them, and their frantic worry for their sister Yushan spared them no glance, only a wave. A gale dealt with the pesky brothers, sent them flying, and they were left to fall powerless on the ground, but their eyes still brimmed with concern for Xuaningxiang. Xuaningxiang shouted, Big brother, second brother! Ha ha ha, easy now. They're fine. I have no interest in swatting down flies. Yushan's malicious grin widened as he had the fragile girl in his grip. Whoosh. Suddenly, a sword flashed by. Xie Tianyang had picked himself up at some point, and was aiming for the man's throat. Flowing spaces, 9 forms, empty net. The space froze, and even Yushan looked slowed as the only moving object was the swift sword attack at his throat. Unfazed in the slightest, the man merely pinched the glinting cold blade. The sword stopped dead in its tracks. The next thing he knew, Xie Tianyang found Yu Yushan's sneer entering his ears. Humph, I would have been a bit worried if the flowing space's 9 forms came from your brother, but you ha ha ha, never mind. Yu Yushan shifted and both sword and man were seen shooting through the air, slamming into the earth and spitting blood. He found no energy left in him to get up. All he could do was painfully witness Yu Yushan's vile hand squeeze Ninger's neck. Chu Qingqing, Xie Tianshang and Long Xingyun rushed over. Yu Yushan merely displayed a frown and placed Xuaningxiang towards them as he shouted, "Don't come any closer, or the lady gets it!" The 3 halted on the spot. They slowly put down their feet and turned grave. The lady was from a trifling second-rate clan, no different from a vassal, but her status was a bit special. She had strong ties with Sword Marquis abodes Xie Tianyang and soaring demonic dragon Zhuofan. Whether it was for the ones behind her or for herself, they had to avoid playing a part in her death at any cost. Yu Yushan's threat wouldn't have worked on them otherwise. With both sides fully knowledgeable of the delicate balance, Yu Yushan regarded them with hatred and a twisted grin. Who'd have seen this coming? High and mighty disciples from 3 houses are now shaking in their boots in fear of seeing a second-rate clan's head falling off. What a sight, ha ha ha! Yu Yushan turned to the said miss with a raised eyebrow. See that, my lady? They care for you so much. And the one who made it all possible is that man. Ironic how it includes your current predicament as well. If only he didn't exist, who among us would waste time to mind a small and insignificant lady? Xuaningxiang gnashed her teeth, knowing fully well who he was talking about. The 3 close by knew it too. The focus behind all this planning and ambushing had been Zhuofan all along. This proves how dear Xuaningxiang was to Zhuofan, making it obvious why the enemy would throw away all their honor and go after a frail girl. It all came down to dealing with Zhuofan. All the more reason why the trio couldn't be hasty, lest they find themselves short of Xuaningxiang, and with an enraged Zhuofan breathing down their necks, the 3 gave each other a hidden nod, being overt as they looked for a chance. Yu Yushan was one of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix after all, so how could he leave an opening for the 3 to exploit? The scene turned into a standstill, with either side moving on the other. The audience beyond the water exit were shocked by the sudden development. A mere second-rate clan's miss was Zhuofan and the other's weakness? Go figure. Luo Yunchang clenched her fists, worried sick. She had long been made aware of Ninger's importance to Zhuofan. Neither she nor Chu Qingqing could reach the same place as that girl in Zhuofan's heart. She refrained from waking Zhuofan to this realization out of worry and fear. Fear that Zhuofan would further distance himself from her. It had reached such a point where before the final battle, Zhuofan's heart was a mess. He kept flipping out yet never could find the root of the problem, blaming it all on his restless mind. Only Luo Yunchang knew this was jealousy over Ninger and Xie Tianyang seeing each other every day. With Zhuofan's one-track mind for cultivation alone, his knowledge about love and anything skirting around the subject was a huge void. Without knowing what caused such deep unrest within him, he chose to force himself to be stone-cold. His mind had found peace, but all he did was stop the flood by building a dam around it, and once that dam cracked, the surging tide would consume him. Luo Yunchang could practically see Zhuofan's pained face. She turned to the trapped Xuaningxiang, praying for her safety. Ninger, you must survive, or Zhuofan will go mad. Among all viewers, the only ones who truly cared for Xuaningxiang were her father and grandfather. Seeing their daughter and grandchild in the hands of Yu Yushan robbed them of their breath. Their hearts were about to break. Why has the kind and cheerful Ninger met with such disaster? Zhuge Changfeng took everything in with a glint in his eye. Sir Leng, is this the fatal weakness you've been mentioning? Ha ha ha, Prime Minister, I have conducted a thorough observation, and that girl is Zhuofan's biggest worry. He might not even realize it himself. Leng Wucheng smiled. Zhuge Changfeng raised an eyebrow. How did Sir Leng find out then, if even he doesn't know? Ha ha ha, simple. A man will always reveal what he yearns for without even realizing it. When Zhuofan first came to Dragon Cloud City, he and our eldest young master clashed. That time he saved 2 women, one was the Luo clan's young miss, while the other was the Shui girl. That was all it took. Zhuge Changfeng smiled. Ling Wucheng shook his head. It wouldn't have been that simple. but his eyes naturally drifted to the Shui girl. It begged the question, if he would ignore even the safety of his clan's young miss, and since he's only interested in the other girl, what place does she hold in his heart? Also, on the fighting stage, when Zhuo Fan was taken by his awe-inspiring first victory, who was it that he went to first? Ha ha ha, when a man shows his heroic side, he wants to share it. Not with his drinking buddies, but with the woman he loves. These are all subconscious actions, but also the ones that betrayed his heart the most. Zhuge Changfeng nodded in understanding. Sir Leng is truly perceptive. From just 2 encounters you have grasped the kid's weakness. I have to say that I'm impressed. You're far too kind, I don't deserve it. The Prime Minister's wisdom is matchless. I dare not compare. I have never been able to see through the Prime Minister's thoughts, not one bit. Lin Wuchang gave a half bow in respect. But the way he was looking at Zhuge Changfeng in the eye, it was more akin to a challenge with a glint in Zhuge Changfeng's eyes. The old man laughed. Sir Ling is interested in me as well? Am I to assume I am your next target? How can that be? I'd never dare do that to you, Prime Minister. Lin Wuchang shook his head. Zhuge Changfeng gave a cold smile in return, not minding it. I don't mind playing a round or two once Sir Ling has dealt with that monkey. Shuddering, Lin Wuchang's eyes shined with battle spirit of Tianyu's 3 great minds. He had always been second to Zhuge Changfeng. He now had the chance to face the man, and although he was somewhat uncertain, the excitement prevailed. Every man with power would do anything to fight for the title of number 1 in the world, unwanted contriver included. On the other side, Yu Yushan saw the trio unmoving and turned to the frightened Xuaningxiang. Girl, that OL poisoner wanted to dissolve you into a bloody smear on the ground for that kid. But I found such a revenge lackluster and figured out a much better way. You wish? Big Brother Zhuo will definitely save me. Xuaningxiang struggled as she cursed, her hand tracing the thunder ring each time the thunder ring flickered. Zhuo Fan was bound to swoop in and carry her from the jaws of danger. Big Brother Zhuo. Her heart cried those 3 little words. Absolutely convinced of her delusional fairy tales, Xie Tianyang gnashed his teeth, crawling forth to save his love. He didn't go far, once again taken by weakness. Only his bloodshot eyes never left Yu Yushan, wishing nothing more than to devour him. Shaking his head, Yu Yushan ignored his surroundings and enjoyed making the last squirm. Girl, your man won't come. While we ambush you, he was going to Huangpu Qingtian to fight over the 4th brimming sacred pill. Ha ha ha, now that I recall, weren't you supposed to be a cauldron for us? Although late by a few years, it's never too late to receive your fate. Yu Yushan touched her head as it released eerie sounds and gray energy. Everyone cried. Ghost hand? He wants to take Ning'er's essence. Chapter 310 You're too late. Chapter 310 You're too late. Elite Coder. Ning'er! Xie Tianyang shouted himself hoarse. No matter how much he wanted and tried to save her, he just couldn't muster the strength to even get up. Essence was a soul's foundation, its core. Its role was to condense divine sense and anchor the soul. Once taken away, the soul would scatter while the flesh would keep on living merely as an empty shell. Chu Qingqing jerked. Yu Yushan wasn't using her as a bargaining chip, but putting her to death. Her team acted at once far too late. However, Yu Yushan's gray energy rippled and he lifted the hand placed on Xuaningxiang's head. As if pulling something, Xuaningxiang's face grew ashen, sheer terror painted on her face as she spoke faintly. Be Big Brother Shui, save me. Then, the top of her head flashed in a blinding light and a pure mote of energy rose above. Xuaningxiang's eyes dulled. Having lost the energy to stand, even her cheerful nature dissipated. As she fell to the ground, Yu Yushan was overjoyed at the dazzling light, intoxicated even. Such pure essence is rarer than rare. What a waste letting her live for so long. Fortunately, it has found its use in the end. Yu Yushan placed the essence in a censer, then sealed the lid before putting it away. Yu Yushan, release Ning'er's essence. Chu Qingqing's delicate voice came. Just as her palm was poised to attack, Yu Yushan replied in kind. The 2 attacks met, and were both forced back. Yu Yushan took the recoil to his advantage and flew away in laughter. Ha ha ha, Without her essence her soul will last for a few more days, enough for that punk to say his last goodbyes. Pass this along, would you? If he wants revenge, we'll be waiting at the Earth exit. Chu Qingqing glared in hatred at the fleeting Yu Yushan just then. Long Xingyun and Xie Tiansheng flew in front of him and cut off his retreat. Yu Yushan, don't think you can get away from me with murder! Xie Tiansheng's sword flew. The bright and thick sword attack crossed the entire sky. Long Xingyun snickered. He, now that you're here, don't even think about leaving. Boom! The incredible sword and palm attacks startled Yu Yushan. With 2 against 1, 6 dragons and 1 phoenix at that, he had no hope of escaping. In his desperation, he released his spirit animal to take the brunt as he escaped. Pa! The scorching eagle was struck as it was still making sense of its surroundings. The 2 profound heaven experts' attacks weren't that threatening, but the eagle still cried in pain. It turned its head dumbfounded. Where's Master? He had let him out, but there was no sight of him. Xie Tiansheng and Long Xingyun were stunned. He is lower than vermin. To even use a 5th-level spiritual beast to cover his ass, he is scum. But we'd be far worse if we wouldn't accept this sacrifice. Xie Tiansheng and Long Xingyun smiled coldly and attacked the spirit animal. The duo released their own beasts to attack Yu Yushan's beast and put it down for good. The scorching eagle was devastated. What the hell? Can someone please tell me what is going on? Why am I suddenly in a deadly situation? No one cared enough to enlighten the beast. The 2 beasts and their masters surrounded it. They beat it into submission and tears, turning it into spoils of war. The fleeting Yu Yushan sighed and cried, "Sorry, partner, everything is for the mission." "Brother Yu, wait!" A panicked cry reached him. Yu Yushan found Yen Bangyi next to him. "Oil poisoner, how did you escape?" Yu Yushan was stunned. Smiling at his fortune, Yen Bangyi said, "It's thanks to you distracting them. I slipped away after taking a pill. If I had known, I wouldn't have used my spirit animal." "Oh, and why didn't you take out your own spirit animal to save me?" Yen Bangyi smirked. "Sure, and what good would 3 men and 3 beasts do against 1 man and 2 beasts? It would only end up sacrificed like your own in the end." Faltering, Yu Yushan's face twitched. "This is our mission, not mine alone." He had lost the most in this. Yen Bangyi was quite hurt as well, yet pleased as punch, ready for his reward. Yu Yushan's anger only rose back to Long Xingyun. The man and beast team clobbered the scorching eagle down to its last breath, then placed it in his ring. Only then they flew to provide help to Xie Tianyan and others. Chu Qingqing's girls helped Xuaningxiang up, but her dead eyes and fading life force left them in grief. Chu Qingqing's eyes teared and placed a hand on her head. Dong Xiaowan cried, "Edifice Lord Chu, what are you doing? With Lady Ning'er's essence taken, her mind is in chaos and her soul is about to scatter. The agony is no different from having one's marrow pierced by 1,000 needles. The pain is enough to harm the soul. It's better to release her from the torment." Chu Qingqing gnashed her teeth, her heart bleeding at the injustice. Dong Xiaowan was stunned. She looked away as tears streamed down. The Shui clan and Xie Tianyang weren't by Ning'er's side, but the words cut them deep. Still, they hoped to save Ning'er, even if it was a flimsy hope. But none wanted to put her through such torment. Only Ling Wuchang nodded. "Not a bad way to die. At least better than muddying the ground with blood." Yu Yushan showed quite the initiative in this mission. Huang Putianyuan smiled. "Ning'er, please don't blame me." Looking at Xuaningxiang's pale face, Chu Qingqing's palm was ready to strike. But then, Chu Qingqing looked stunned as Xuaningxiang's dainty hand stopped her. With barely any strength left in her, even with her eyes dull, she still held on to the last bit of energy, holding back the attack. A deflated and weak smile graced her lips. "Edifice Lord Chu, please give me more time. I want to see Big Brother Zhuo one last time." Chu Qingqing's words were stuck in her throat. She knew the pain of having one's soul scattered, but nonetheless, Ning'er wished to wait for Zhuo Fan. As a woman, especially a woman who loved the same man she did, Chu Qingqing's heart was in such pain that she turned around. Xuaningxiang gave a faint smile. "Thank you." Once Xuaningxiang and the Shui brothers recovered enough with the help of pills, they rushed to Xuaningxiang's side. The pale face and increasingly weakened figure filled them with sorrow. Xie Tianyang wanted to go get her essence back, but Xie Tianxiang held him back. The other side had Huang Puqing Tian, and neither of them were his match. Xie Tianxiang may be a martial fanatic, but he knew his limits. Before they could do anything else, however, they had to wait for Zhuo Fan and discuss it. But even after 2 days, Zhuo Fan was nowhere in sight. Xuanningsiang only got worse. At the brink of death, Xie Tianyang was always by her side. In tears in the afternoon of the 3rd day, Xuanningsiang and Xie Tianyang saw their thunder ring flashing. Xuanningsiang was moments away from passing, but her eyes shined and a smile appeared. He came. Boom! Lightning crashed and Zhuo Fan landed. He saw less than 1,000 men and his heart seized. He asked Chu Qingqing nervously, Is everyone all right? Their faces were dull and words had left them. Zhuo Fan's heart skipped a beat. Feeling the gravity of the situation, Xie Tianyang's bloodshot eyes turned to him, his voice laced with hatred. You're too late. Far too late. Zhuo Fan was taken aback seeing the brother he went through life and death with show such an expression. But then he noticed something and his lips quivered. How is Ninger? Xie Tianyang only closed his eyes, but tears never stopped flowing. Zhuo Fan grew more nervous as he approached slowly with shaky legs. He didn't want to accept that because of him, Huang Puqing Tian had moved against Ninger, a sweet and frail girl. As the sad and despondent people slowly made way to reveal a delicate figure, Zhuo Fan's mind was blown away, rooted on the spot.